Welcome to our fifth day of the Caribbean Beekeepers Congress. Today our first presenter is Mr. Josie Lewis, all the way from India. Morning, Josie, how are you?
Richard, good evening. It is
Oh, sorry, yes, good evening, good night. I'm sorry. Anyway, all right, so we're about to start our first presentation. I'm going to be like on the time, well, not for you, Josie, because you're calling all the way from India, but all our country papers this afternoon, be warned, I'm going to be like a hawk. All right, so it's going to be like 15-minute countdown and 5 minutes to go, folks. All right, so anyway, without further ado, let me pass you on to Mr. Josie Lewis, all the way from India. I believe you're in Hyderabad today, or where are you today, Jose?
I'm in Hyderabad.
Fantastic. So you're calling from Hyderabad, India, all the way to the Caribbean. Transoceanic partnership. To coin the words from my good mentor, Mr. Romulus. All right, so without further ado, Jose, it's all yours. Take the floor. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone, and greetings from India. And thank you, team, for having this presentation and great friendship between two distant places who are connected with beekeeping. Let me introduce. As you can see, my conversation with you is about being personal. Yes, it is, the journey of beekeeping is personal, it is close to heart. It is from my childhood till now. I'm a beekeeper, I wear various hats. As it is a personal story, I would like to tell you, I do a bit of technology, I work on wildlife crime, I do beekeeping, and I deal with snake rescues. So it's all over a conservation career. So I call myself a conservationist from India. And these are part of, my personal life. And let me introduce what is being personal. Being personal is very interesting because I call myself a fourth generation beekeeper. You can see my great grandfather who was a beekeeper. I mean, he was a proper farmer. My grandfather was my guru who actually taught me beekeeping, who expired in 1994. He was a school teacher and a beekeeper. My father was into constructions and, he is also a beekeeper. Well, he was not very happy me becoming a beekeeper. That's me, who is a beekeeper in and out. And the last one who is standing is, with the smiling face is my daughter, 12-year-old. She is also qualified beekeeper these days because a couple of days back, she divided her colonies and she's also a beekeeper. So she calls her as the fifth generation beekeeper. So it is almost a century of beekeeping in the genetics. So that's where I come from. And it is truly personal being, or it's truly close to heart beekeeping. So as Richard said, I'm from India. I mean, greetings from India. It's a country of colors, diversity, a lot of things. So here we are, Indians. We do have Bollywood. A lot of you must be familiar with our Bollywood movies, a lot of dance, color, and action and drama. And of course, we do have the biggest population of tigers. And Taj Mahal, and above all, we do have Sachin Tendulkar. I know, I mean, my childhood memories with Caribbeans were the visiting Caribbean cricketers and our cricket teams, and the Caribbean cricket and the Indian cricket. So we do have something which is connecting, a lot of cricket between two regions. Anyway, with that introduction about India, I don't think I need to introduce India to any of you. Let's talk about the bees of India. I am trying to talk to you about what kind of bees we find in India, and honey bees, and where they find and how we keep, and the general beekeeping, and then of course I'll be talking a bit about the mobile app which we created recently with the support of ABCU. So this is our first bee, the Apis dorsata, or which is the Indian rock bee. This is wild bees. These bees are wild, and these are found almost all part of the country. And you can see that this is actually a very large hive. I mean, these bees are wild in nature, and they make a lot of honey, but you cannot tame them. They build their nests in trees and sometimes in cliffs. Here is another photograph which I'll show you. Sorry, a bit more about the. So these are totally wild bees. You cannot tame them. And this is one of the largest honeybees found in the world. They produce a lot of honey. These are bad-tempered bees. I mean, if you go near these beehives, they will attack you. Even today, I got a photograph from somebody, actually from a doctor, who was telling that he got a patient who was stung with these bees. So they're dangerous bees. And but people do collect honey from this. This is another photograph of this bees. Beautiful bees. I mean, you can see the size of the beehive. If you're not happy with that, look at this. So this is how you will find these bees. They colonize in one particular area, and they do have a great site fidelity. They're migratory in nature. You can see few of the combs which are abandoned. They come and go in a particular season, and they build these nests one next to each other, and these are inaccessible areas. So large beehives, and people do collect these honey from these beehives. There are techniques. So these are the specialized honey hunters of India who can actually collect honey from these hives. So one of the dangerous bees. This is a typical habitat of these bees. This is from Central Indian habitat. I can actually point, I mean, you must be seeing the mouse pointer here. You can see this is actually a beehive in this corner. So this is where, and across this cliff, across this horseshoe shaped thing, there may be about 100, 200 beehives. And they are all going to the valley, which is on the left for foraging. And this is actually from the middle of a tiger forest. I mean, a forest which has got tigers. So this is the kind of habitat you will find Apis dorsata. One of the races of bees which produce a lot of honey, and people collect it from wild. Then we come to another wild bee which is found in India, which is Apis florea, which is the dwarf bees. They're very tiny bees. They also produce, I mean, I call them as a miniature of the Apis dorsata, but these guys are not that, dangerous. They're mildly tempered. I mean, you can smoke a little, and you can move the bees around, and you can take the honey from that. You can see this is actually, they're on a stabilizer, an air conditioner stabilizer next to somebody's wall. And it's a small beehive, and you will get about half a kilogram of honey from that. This is the top portion of the comb will have honey, and the bottom portion will have the eggs and larvae. And you can see even a queen cell which is getting developed. So this is one. This photograph on the right-hand side of the screen was taken right outside my house recently. So you can see a tiny branch, and the bees are there. So recently they left, once the rain started, they left from this place. Migratory in nature. Produces a little bit of honey. Again, we cannot tame these bees. They're purely wild bees. So these are the dwarf honeybee, or the Apis florea, which is found in most part of the country, and they prefer the drier regions. I mean, these bees have a tendency to settle in drier regions. Small quantity of honey. Honey is a particular different taste also, and people say that it has got some medicinal value, and honey collected in small quantities. Then we come to the stingless bees. Stingless bees are the tiniest bees. Yesterday, a couple of people were talking about the stingless bees. These bees are, they're ant-like bees. They're stingless, and we have this stingless bees in most part of the country. We keep the stingless bees because, they're good pollinators, actually. If you have a homestead garden, if you have a small farm, these bees are the best bees, because one, there is no maintenance. Once you install a damer bee colony, set up the box, and then you don't have to worry. I mean, you don't have to worry for a year or two. But the problem is they give you a tiny amount of honey, about 200 grams, 250 grams. That's what honey. But trust me, that honey is one of the tastiest honey, and it is one of the costliest honey. A kilogram of honey, a farmer will sell to a buyer at about $30 a kilo. So honey is very costly. I happen to have a recent photograph of this colony. You can see it's a different arrangement. You can see the honey on one side. You can see the eggs. You can see the pollen collected. It's a tiny box. It's about a 5-inch width and about 4 to 4.5 inch depth. That's all. Small box. small bees, little bit of honey, but one of the best honey. I mean, we do keep this honey bees across the country. Good for medicinal value honey, tiny amount of honey, but good for pollination also. I suggest many initial or startup beekeepers actually can keep this one to begin their beekeeping career. Tiny bees. I mean, this is actually a very enlarged picture. You can see this bee on a flower. It's about 3.5 to 4 mm length. This is one of the smallest bees found in India. Then finally, we come to Apis cerana indica. These are my favorite bees. These bees are actually producing a lot of, these are Indian bees. These are found most part of the country. We will be talking a lot about them. I mean, these bees can be domesticated and they produce about 8 to 12 kilograms of honey. I mean, I know most of you are keeping mellifera, will be wondering that, 8 to 12 kilograms of honey. Yes, this is actually, smaller bees. They produce lesser amount of honey than mellifera, but I'll tell you why we keep this. These are indigenous bees. This is actually a hive which I found in one of my friend's house, and we were about to, translocate the hive into a box. So that is when this photograph was taken. One of my favorite photograph of these bees. Let me tell you about beekeeping in India. Now, that was our bees of India. I'm not talking about mellifera because I still consider mellifera as a foreign species, and most of you know about mellifera, so I don't want to talk about mellifera. Across India, we have got beekeeping going on. It is, if you know India, it's the northernmost part of India, Kashmir. Then we got the Tarai landscape. Then we got the Northeast India. Then we got West Bengal. I mean, the coastal area. This is mangrove areas. And also here in the drier region, we got beekeeping pockets across the country, and India produces a lot of honey, most of you know. The nation recently, in 2018, there is a national beekeeping and honey mission started under the Prime Minister's guidance. And about 150 districts across the country is adopted for beekeeping. It's known as the Sweet Revolution. A lot of interventions are happening across the country on beekeeping. But let me just take you to various places how people keep bees. Now, this photograph, I'm going a little quickly. I know that there is a lot of things to cover and we've got 45 minutes. You can see these two tiny windows. These are actually bee traps. So these are places actually, in a house in northern India, there is a custom that, you make a little place for bees. So bees enter into this one, settle there. So this is the inside of it. This is cerana bees. They settle inside these cavities, and people collect a little bit of honey, leave most of the combs. They collect 2 or 3 combs, honey from 2 or 3 combs, and leave the rest of the combs. So the colony stays there. So this is one way of keeping honey in the hills. If you go to northeast, the northeast part of India, it's a different culture altogether. The traditional beekeepers are there. You can see it's a hut in the rural part of Nagaland. You can see the number of beehives around the house. You can see modern beehives. You can see traditional beehives. You can see logs. Their life is very much connected with beekeeping. Excellent beekeepers. They know bees. They know how to handle bees. They know how to collect wild bees, and they know how to look after their bees. They produce good amount of honey. This is the new generation beekeepers. They have a strange system of keeping the bee boxes on the ground. And these boxes are kept to capture natural swarms. These are near the forest areas. So different way of keeping bees. And this is actually the cooperative society who gave them beehives, and they have kept these boxes. And this is a field photograph. So good beekeeping culture there. From there, if you come to the plains, if you come to the plains of India, you have a lot of mustard seeds. You can see that, commercial beekeepers keeping their boxes. I think most of you are familiar with this kind of beekeeping. On the right-hand side, you can see that beautiful picture of a honey hunter actually collecting honey from the Apis dorsata hive. I told you, these are pretty bad-tempered bees. You can see the kind of, they just literally smoke these bees and make them intoxicated and then collect the honey. Honey has got huge quantity of honey collected. There are methods. There are invasive and non-invasive methods of collecting honey. So this is one of the methods, and this is from the Sundarbans. Very interesting story when I talk about Sundarbans. There is blood honey in Sundarbans. You can see the man on the left-hand side, he's actually wearing a mask behind his head. And I don't know how many of you actually noticed there is a tiger sitting in the middle frame. So this is an interesting relationship. The mangrove forests actually produce a lot of honey. A lot of beehives are there. But this mangrove forest also got tigers. Now, honey hunters usually get killed by tigers. And a lot of interventions by organizations, social organizations, and the forest department to save people. This was one of the technique which these honey hunters actually used. You know, they kept a mask behind their faces because tigers actually go behind a human being, but the tiger get confused. That was a belief. But a lot of people lost their lives. One of the best quality honey is produced from this area, one of the riskiest honey. This is a recently marketed honey where actually government has given bee boxes to people so that they don't venture into these dangerous forests to compete with the tigers to get honey. Of course, you know, as I told, India is a country of various interesting facts. Then we have commercial beekeepers. These are mellifera boxes. You can see these are large apiaries where people actually, these are migratory beekeepers. We do have a lot of migratory beekeepers who establish colonies like this, and they migrate from one place to another place. A very well established, well organized beekeeping industry where large amount of honey is produced. There are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of questions which I'll come later. So this is large beekeepers. Then coming to towards the southern part of India, there are certain tribes, like you can see these guys. These are people who are Jenu Kurumbas. Jenu means honey. Kurumba is a tribe name. So these are people who are actually traditional honey hunters. They also, again, they have their methods of honey hunting, and also now they're migrating from the hunter-gatherer situation to proper beekeepers. They do keep boxes, but again, they have their methods of keeping boxes. This box on the right-hand side, when I inspected the box, that fellow said, I never looked after the box. Bees come, they settle, they go. I collect some honey sometime. They still have that mindset of a hunter-gatherer. It's difficult to change, but they are excellent honey hunters. This is one photograph, one situation where I went with these honey hunters to, hunt bees from the forest. And you can see how they're transferring a colony from a cavity into a bee box. These are Serrana bees. Excellent knowledge about beekeeping. I mean, this guy who's sitting there probably is a professor in beekeeping. He knows the bees, he knows their ecology, he knows their behavior, knows how to handle them. A lot of traditional knowledge with these guys. These guys are like, I call them, they're the bee scientists in the forest. Excellent guys. And finally, I'm taking you to where I'm from. It is also partially like Caribbeans because we got a seashore and we got a tropical climate. This is the southern part of the country, and that dot is where we keep our bees. I'm from Kerala, and it's a place where there is a lot of beekeeping happening. We do have a lot of plantation. We have rubber plantation. We got cocoa. We got coconut, cashew, various spices. So everything. I mean, a tropical condition with all this good plantation, good forest cover, because this area, if you can see, this portion is Western Ghats, which is one of the ecological hotspots of the world. It's a biodiversity hotspot. We do have a lot of forest also, so it's a mixed area where we can actually get a lot of honey produced. So this is a typical landscape. This is exactly where we keep our bees. So you can see on the left-hand side, this is plantation areas. On the right-hand side, this side, it is forest. So if I simplify it, it looks something like this. I mean, pardon me for my graphic skills. We got a lot of plantation, like we got rubber plantation. Rubber produces a lot of nectar, and we got a lot of fruit trees. We got tapioca, we got spices, everything. So we place our bee boxes here in the plantation areas across the river, because usually water bodies are very much needed for good beekeeping. And also this protect the beehives from sloth bears, because we do have a lot of sloth bears in the forest. This distance is hardly about 1 kilometer. So bees, when there is flowers available in the plantation, bees forage in the plantation. When it is not available, they go across the forest and they collect nectar, pollen from the forest. This kind of a situation is excellent for beekeeping, because you have round the year source for food for bees, because you will get pollen, you will get nectar. Unless and until it is a heavy raining day, bees can actually collect food from either from the forest or from the plantation. Get good quality honey, because it's honey which is collected only from rubber plantation or tapioca or coffee. It's not the best honey, but you get honey from you get ingredients from the forest, so it's fun. The other thing is, I always look at the genetic diversity of bees, because once you have bee boxes here, there is a good chance of your bees, the queens getting mated with drones from across the river. So this is a good way of keeping your genetics good, because I'll come to that, because it's very important to have a very good stock bees, because otherwise if you inbreed your colony, the quality of the colonies goes down. So that's one thing. So then again, water source in summer, because there is water in between, there is a perennial river, so bees get water. So swarming or colony abandoning will be much less. So that's the ideal location where we actually keep. So now, pardon me, let me take you to our Serrana beekeeping. I told about the 5th generation beekeeper. This is a, sorry. This is the 5th generation beak who's actually, no, I'm not suffering from corona, don't worry. Perfectly healthy. Just had some water. So this is my 5th generation beak who is examining the beehive. And I'll introduce you to the beehive which we have. This is a simple lid. There's a honey chamber, there's a brood chamber, there is a bottom board. We do have a lot of ants which are creating problems. So we create this simple water trap for ants not to enter into this one. These hives are always covered with a proper cover, a plastic sheet or a tin sheet to ensure that it is protected from rain and sunlight. Our bees are small, I told you, smaller than the mellifera. So the box is about 10.5 inches wide, that's all. 6 frames, that is the kind of boxes which we use. You can look at the inner, you can look at one of the, this is actually a wild caught hive, which we transferred into the box. And this is the honey chamber frame. It's 4.5 inch height, that's all. These are tiny frames. So I'm trying to give you an understanding of when you have this huge frames of mellifera frames, we have this tiny few inch wide frames. So this is the brood chamber frame. We keep the brood chamber frame bottom open because that is we found that it is easy to access the comb for checking queen cells especially. So that is one design which we started using recently, perfectly fine. The top, the honey chamber is about 7.5 inch wide and 4.5 inch in height. So that is the frames. Most of you are beekeepers. I don't need to explain to you, but I'm just telling you that how we keep serranas. You can see the photograph in the background. You can see coffee plants and there is a papaya. So these are our plants also. This actually, the photograph is taken from a rubber plantation. So where the mixed crops are kept. This is a comb, which is almost, I can see that it is about 80 to 85 or almost 90% capped comb. And it is a perfectly fine beehive, plenty of bees, you can see. We do take precautions, I'll tell you why. This is a brood chamber comb. And again, as I told you, you can look at the size of the fingers and you can look at the size of the frame. It's just small, tiny frames. In the middle, you can see the capped eggs and you can see a couple of drones there. Looks pretty similar to mellifera, but smaller in size. And unlike mellifera, our bees are a little temperamental. I mean, you can look at, this is, the moment you open the box during a swarming season or in a honey season, you can see the way the bees are going. I mean, these are not friendly checkup. You can see the body language of the bees. They're a little disturbed. So they sting. So we need, in most cases, we need a bit of protective gear to handle bees. If you're a seasoned beekeeper, you know how to deal with them. But I still tell people that, if you're a initial beekeeper, I got stung enough. I mean, my doctors told me that my blood is actually saturated with bee venom. So that kind of stings which we get. But, but temperamental bees, it's a tropical climate and it is India. So, except that. What else? I mean, anyway, bit about the serrana bees. I hope I'm keeping on track on time. Serrana bees are endemic to our region, and they're actually in the 1992-94. Many of you must have heard about this TSBV disease. We lost almost all the colonies. 1992, I was a student and I had about 15, 20 colonies. And I remember, I heard about this disease happening and then I thought, it will never happen. It was like probably the corona for bees at that point of time. I heard that, those days there was no internet. I heard that there is some disease happening. And then, the news came nearer and nearer. And one fine day I found, one of my colonies, pupas are dying. Then I understood one colony is lost. Then next day, next one. And I tell you, in 15 days, we lost all colonies. Not me, all the beekeepers in my area. We lost almost all the colonies. Nobody had bee colonies. And we thought that is the end of beekeeping there. I mean, we wrapped the boxes and they kept it. A lot of boxes got, found their way to the kitchen as firewood because people never thought that the population will come back. But I still remember, probably, the next year, I still remember I was walking around and I found a beehive under a rock. I mean, probably that was like, that was like one of the biggest discoveries in my life. Like I had no beehives and suddenly I'm finding that, from my house about a kilometer away in a rubber plantation, I'll still remember as it happened yesterday, I found bees going in and out. Oh my God, this is a beehive. Went there, I tell you, after capturing the colony, I went to church almost 7 days because 7 days it will take for a colony to settle. My prayer was only one thing, the colony should settle, the colony should settle, the colony should settle. It was December. So it was my prayer that the colony should settle. We bounced back from there. We found more colonies, we divided colonies, and today we got these back. And there are some strains of, the virus left still around, but not damaging. As I told you, temperamental bees, about 12 kilograms of honey a year, that's quite okay. 6 to 8 frames, that is it. They do swarm. They have a tendency of swarming. If the season is good, if there is food around, Serrana will swarm. So we have to be very careful with them. You have to see. You can see the queen cells there. You have to look for queen cells and destroy them. Otherwise, they will swarm. And unlike the other bees, they don't produce propolis. So that's a huge difference. It has big advantages and disadvantages because we don't have to struggle too much to open the boxes. But the disadvantage is that prone to wax moth attacks because there is no propolis, there is no protection. Wax moth, the moth comes in and settle in the combs and lay eggs. We have major problem. The box of bees are much cheaper. Like a box with a functional beehive, bees colony will cost us about $20 to $30. That is a maximum. $30 is a maximum. $20 is common price you will get. Bees are very much adapted to the local climate conditions and they're easy to divide and grow. And also we are, personally, I'm committed to the conservation of the native bees because a lot of people must already talked about, the importance of, keeping local bees. So that's, well, the European bees never survived in this climate conditions because when the Tay-Sachs brood virus attack happened, the first thing everybody has done that they imported European bee colonies and said that, these are big boxes. I also had one box, huge bee box, and I was so happy, but, they couldn't survive the monsoon. So we understood that it's good to go back to our own, bees and, use them. So that's the story. I don't think European bees will survive in my part of the country. Some other part of the country, they're using European bees. So that's it. Then now let me, take you to some of the veteran beekeepers. This man who is standing here on the left side, he is Mr. Joseph. He is in his mid 60s and, he was a beekeeper from the 80s. He's a professionally trained beekeeper in our area. We got about 150 beekeepers in a 20 square kilometer area. And he do have a small honey processing center and sells branded honey. And again, as I told you, like the tribal, he's also an encyclopedia on bees, how to look after bees and how to take care of bees. So these are kind of bees. You can look at his hand actually swollen with bee stings, I just now I noticed it. So quite a veteran guy. So this is recently taken, couple of days back, taken photograph of his small packaging center. His assistant, and this is Mr. Thomas. This is, I'm going to talk about app later. This is our IT professor. He's also a beekeeper. So, this is in their little facility. And you can see the cans behind, they're all filled with honey in that. Joseph and friends run a packaging unit. This is the simple packaging unit. This is how actually many of the ground level beekeepers function. He is a bit of an enterprising guy. He got various, this is his experimental lab. He put cashew. He put various spices in honey or even chili, and then he produced this various products, bee products. And trust me, we all are the guinea pigs who get to taste these things. And he got a Inform brand honey also. So he's a an enterprising guy who's doing it in the right way. Now, that is where the problem starts. being personal, being passionate about beekeeping, all that is fine. I'll tell you some of the problems we face. On the left-hand side, you get this unbranded pure honey, which is about $4.5. I converted the price into international figures, so you know that what price is. This honey is actually traceable to a hive. You don't have to worry about the origin of honey. This is not a laundered honey. This is actually pure honey from a beehive, and it's not blended or it is not heated. And the money goes to the beekeeper. So that is unbranded, honey which you sell by a beekeeper. We do have branded honey, which cost you double the price. And this is not traceable to any hive. And most of this honey is wild collected, which is not sustainable. And, less than 40% of the money goes to a honey collector or a beekeeper. So that is one of the major problems in India we face. I think almost all of you face it across the world. The beekeepers don't get, enough money for their honey. We do have a lot of problems in the market. These are some of the leading brands of honey in India. A lot of confusing customer terms, like, you go to Google and search for, I want to buy a little honey. Then somebody will say that I'll sell you raw honey. Then somebody will say, I'll sell you wild and raw honey. Then somebody will tell you that I'll be selling you pure forest honey. Then there is basil, eucalypt, cinnamon honey. These are not actually going to one particular plant and collecting honey. But the average customer will think that, this is honey actually collected from eucalyptus tree or basil flowers. They actually put 2 drops of, this essence and, make it flavored honey, and people think that it's great. So there's a lot of confusion. Then the new trend is the organic honey. Now, I don't understand this. Honey is something which is organic. How can you make an organic thing again, pack and make it again organic? So it's confusing. Then some people say that this is not from box, it is wild honey. So what is the difference between, box honey and wild honey? Box honey, do you think that, we artificially feed bees and produce honey? And wild honey is something different? My only question here is that, where is this natural honey? Where can I buy a little natural honey from? Or, questions about, everybody is marketing wild honey. How sustainable it is. Everybody is talking about sustainability. Everybody is talking about a better planet. But how this wild honey is sustainable? And who is finally making the profits? Is the corporates making the profits? Or the beekeeper making the profit? I'm reading these days. Across the world, the beekeepers are complaining. They're complaining that there is honey laundering happening, honey from China coming to European markets or American market and conquering, or the quality of honey from India is deteriorating. Who's making the profit? Is the beekeeper or the corporates? So that is, that is one of the major challenge now. That's something which I'm really looking at. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. I just looked at Amazon. I get honey for 275 rupees, about $3.8 US. It includes delivery charge. That includes the packing, the bottle, labeling, processing, purchase of honey, logistics, all other overhead cost, plus the cost of the raw honey, and you're selling it at 275 rupees over Amazon. I have nothing against Amazon, please. But how it is possible? Are we buying cheap honey instead of quality honey? This price war, in India, one of the major things which happened in the recent past is everybody is buying honey, but they're not bothered about, quality honey. They look at the labeling, they look at the color of the honey, and they buy the cheapest honey possible. You buy 1 bottle, you get half a bottle free. That is what is happening. So this cheap quality honey is actually killing the market. Nobody is understanding that, but it is a corporate war. I'm not getting much into the market, but researchmarkets.com, researchandmarkets.com, rupees in millions. Huge market which is happening. It is just started with this COVID and immunity issues and everywhere. There is a growth for market. There is growth for beekeeping in India. It's a possibility. It is one of the biggest consumer market in the world. There is possibility. But as I told you, the price versus the quality is a big problem. Misinformation. Beekeepers are not making profits. Factory beekeeping. You keep your bees only to produce honey. There are a lot of unethical practices happening in beekeeping. Artificial feeding, adulteration of honey. Everything is happening. Everything is happening, and it is a truth. We may be able to discuss it in a different session, but adulteration of honey is happening. That's a serious concern. I know many of you are attending this webinar. The moment you hear honey from India, you'll actually frown and say that, oh, honey from India, it's not good. It happened because of a lot of adulteration. I'm not getting into that, but that's a problem. Support from government and government agencies at grassroots level. Where the government is supporting? Are you supporting the actual beekeeper on the ground? So that's a major question. And of course, finally, the native bees versus the imported bees. Serrana will survive even after a disaster, but I am not that sure about mellifera will survive after a huge attack of virus or another parasite. So we always have to look at what we can keep locally. So this is challenge. I tell people that if you really need to keep bees, or if you really need to get into apiculture professionally, this is something which I was suggesting a few days back. Somebody who asked me that, how should I start beekeeping? I got, it's a small, group of people. They have some money and they said, I want to do this. So I just summarized all that into this one slide. You plan, you procure about 500 boxes, empty boxes, 250 hives. By November 2020, the process is going on. Get that many hives. You should have a plan that, this year you're not having production of honey, you're expanding your hives. So, you always have to get into a project with a plan. So many times I see that, especially in India, especially in my part of the country, you don't see this kind of a planning when you get into beekeeping. A lot of people want to do beekeeping because it is a good thing. It helps in conservation, it helps in, sustainability, blah, 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 but planning is not there. Then once you are ready, then you have to look at value-added products. Yesterday I saw Richard's presentation. Great, that kind of value-added products should come out from beekeeping. Something which we started thinking is a smart monitoring and management system. You need to gather a lot of information and you need to ensure that your entire project is actually going in a positive note. So that's very much needed. Another interesting thing is, when you look at the beekeepers and the market, beekeepers, and there are so many bulk buyers, and then, from the bulk buyers, it goes to a packager and various distributors. Between the beekeeper and the buyer, there are a lot of people making profit. So that is when we started thinking about, can we connect these beaks with the buyers directly? Again, not getting into the details, but if you can develop a system like this, if you can develop a mechanism like this, if you want to buy honey, you should go to the local beekeeper and buy honey. That is the best thing. Instead of going for a corporate packaged honey, if you can buy directly from a local beak, it will be very, very much beneficial to the beekeeper. It will be beneficial for you, and it will be beneficial for the local economy. So we should look at something like that. That is actually when we started looking at this mobile app. I'll tell the story in the later slides. So this mobile app, which Richard mentioned yesterday, is it's something which is an outcome of all this thought process. And Richard and gang, Richard, Solomon, and Sharada, these guys actually instigated us to go ahead with this. So here in this system, the beekeeper, the beak is the most important element with this one. And it is a simple Android-based mobile app. Yes, Richard, I noted it because, Richard, I'll make a iOS version because you are struggling to get adapted to Android. And it is a customizable and scalable system which we developed. I'll show you. I'm not getting into the details. We can use it for for agencies. Like we develop it in such a way that you can look at large installation of beehives. Like you can look at the monitoring, you can look at the management, you can take correct decisions and strategy making. And a lot of scientific data can be collected using this mobile app. So that was the idea behind it. So this is a beehive with a QR code. I'll tell you, when this was installed, my son actually walked to the beehive and he said, now the bees has to read the QR code. So yeah, it is something new. I mean, he was asking whether the bees should now look at the QR code and say that, oh, this is my hive, and enter and do that. No, it is not that. It is actually, the idea is that if I have an apiary, I have about 50 beehives, I should get all this information on my screen. How many hives are good, how many hives are bad, how many hives need my attention. You collect all this information from various days, various activities, and put it in one screen, and you can monitor it. And the system is not just monitoring the beehive, but it is also looking after the beak. Because, if I have about 200 beehives and I engage somebody to look after the beehives, or I run a project with about 500 beehives, I may not be looking after all the boxes every day. I may assign people, or I may have beekeepers who are looking after them. Many times what happens is, a developmental agency, a project will go and give about a dozen or two beehives to a farmer, and everything is good. You take photographs, you write a nice article, you send it to your donor, and your supporter, your corporate, everybody is happy. You started this sweet revolution, everything, all good. After 3 months, you call up this guy. I'll say that, there was a rain, there was, wind, and in the night somebody stolen the box. When you go there, there's nothing. I mean, he lost half of the boxes, half boxes are empty, and then some boxes there are bees. I have seen this in many places. So I can remotely sense some of you are smiling. Yes, this happens. So we thought, why don't we monitor the beaks also? In this system, if a person is not going to look after, if he's not checking the beehive once in 7 days, the boss will get an alert saying that, look, Richard is not looking after his hive. It's 7 days, we haven't got any update from Richard. All you need to do is that pick up the phone and ask Richard, hey, Richard, what are you doing? Having a beer and sleeping? Oh, no. He will tell that, hey, we are not getting an update from you. So this is actually a plan to, monitor your beehives and the beekeeper. Anyway, I'll explain. You can add a beehive. This is actually an experimental screen. So I took a photograph and kept it there. And how you got a beehive added, whether it was from a division, what is the population of the beehive when you add it, what is the temperament, these bees are calm. Then there are other things like, you can add other variables like, what is the situation there, a particular day, it's rainy or sunny, and what have you noticed, bees are foraging on trees or whatever thing. And then you can also add your inventory, like, you can add, okay, I got 50 kilograms of honey. Let me add it and set a price that this is the price which I want to sell this honey. So it's not $3,000. This developers has to change that with the rupee sign. So, 10 kilograms of honey I have, it is 300 rupee, because this is data, because this data is going to be available on a website for, the local people to buy that, if I need 10 kilograms of honey, I can actually look for a beekeeper who got 10 kilograms of honey and he is giving me at a good rate. So I'll buy it directly from him. So that is one thing. And then you can add various events, when you're keeping bees. You can do hive examination, you can look at disease treatments, honey harvesting, various things, various incidents associated with a beehive. We have got facilities for all that. For example, it is examination. There are various things. Of course, again, I just noticed the spelling mistake. My techies has to, after this I'll tell them. Whether you have seen the queen, how is the health of the colony, what is the temperament, everything. Whatever a beekeeper is looking at. I tell you something. I'm a great fan of technology, but the common sense of a beekeeper, the eye of a beekeeper, it's a very complex computer. It can analyze a lot of things by looking at a colony. I can look at a photograph of bee colony and say that, how the colony is performing. So all this information you can put. If you're replacing a queen, you can put that information in this. If you're resetting a colony, like one of your colony is lost, what was the reason? If the disease happened or you found it empty, you lost the queen, so you can add. All this information is going back to the server in real time. So somebody who is sitting there, we're getting to see patterns, we are getting to see, various instances of information coming into your computer, and the computers actually will give you graphs and charts, will tell you will actually enable you to, take very learned decisions. Finally, it is, this mobile app took about 2.5 months. I'll tell you, this was actually this, I don't know whether Richard mentioned it. I had a conversation with Richard a few months back. I was locked down and locked up and staying at home. And one night we had this, Skype call or Zoom call. And we were discussing, and then Richard was telling me, about this beekeeping, and Richard, Solomon, and Sharda, all three of them were there. And my good colleague, Loretta, also was there. And said, why don't we develop some technology? So I said, yes, we can develop technology, because this was actually going on in my mind. I discussed with my team once, but there was no triggering event. These guys actually triggered it. 2.5 months back, Richard and team, and we had a discussion. And these guys were sitting on the screen, sitting on the left side. These are the guys who actually created the system. So, kudos to them. They actually developed the whole system. See, the advantage was that we had beekeepers, me, Mr. Thomas, Richard, Solomon, all of us to guide them. And we got one of the best tech minds around, and they could understand it and turn it into codes and, systems. And well, we developed it and we tested it in 3-4 locations, and it is working. I'll actually show you a small demo after this. And well, we are actually looking at, this was a mad experiment, I should tell you, and it's successful. So first experiment will be with your Caribbean team. And once it is successful, we can take it to other places, because this is something which we really want to do. If I tell you it is being personal, it's not to make a profit out of this, but it is to ensure that, this kind of systems actually help people and make it sustainable. Of course, we cannot give it absolutely free, but this kind of a system can help a lot of people to do effective and better beekeeping. So, we will develop, definitely, we can make custom versions of the mobile app. I mean, it is not just a mobile app, it's actually a complicated system. So if I can actually go to the dashboard and show you what happens, I'll try that. And this is it. I have actually kept one screen. So let me see if it works. Here it is. So.
Jose, I don't mean to rush you, but we're 45 minutes in, and 10 o'clock is our next presentation. So
okay. So, anybody who would like to have a look at the system?
Yeah, of course, do that. But I'm being mindful of time today. I don't want to get caught like yesterday.
Yes.
All right. But we have a few questions. A few questions are coming on online. So if you can try and wrap up, so we can do some questions, and then we can be ready for 10:15. So let's take it till 10 o'clock, and then because our next presentation is at 10:15. So go ahead, and we'll just run till 10 o'clock. All right. So you've got 11 minutes. Go for it. Oh, you want to do questions now? You finished, or you want to do questions?
Richard, I'm finished. I mean, if anybody wants to see the back end, they can actually.
No, but let's do the back end, and then let's do some questions. That's what I'm saying. Let's do the back end, and let's do some questions after that. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Good.
So let me see if I can show you the dashboard. So that will be an interesting thing for a lot of us to see. Okay, here we go. So this is the back end of the system. So as I told you, it is not just a, yeah. There it is. It's a what do you call it? It's an early access system. So I have 75 colonies. I have 11 users. I can see their details. So what will I do? I'll just, for example, I want to see all the colonies on my screen. I'll take 2 minutes only, Richard. I'll show a little bit of, I want to see all my colonies on a map. So here I am, Yes, loading. Here I am. My colonies here. Control scroll. So I scroll in. These colonies belongs to Thomas. Yeah. So sitting here in Hyderabad, about 2,000 kilometers away from Thomas, I can check his colonies. Okay, there is one colony which is not doing good. I mean, there is a colony in red here. So let me click on that. Or these are good colonies. This is a green colony. So I'll click on the colony. Look at the details of this colony. That's an excellent colony. So I get all the information here. Colony ID is this, colony status is this. Okay, any event. So there was an examination happened. I can look at the details of the examination of the colony. Okay, Thomas, excellent. It was natural swarming. They examined the colony.
Green. We can only see the slide. We can't see your screen of the back end.
Oh, Richard, sorry. Then in that case, there is a technical glitch. That is fine. Let's go to the questions in that case.
Okay, no problem. Let's get the people to ask the questions live.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So let's get them to just click on it. Just click on answer live.
Hi.
Okay, Mr. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Jose. Really good presentation. I really enjoyed your presentation from the subcontinent of India, our largest democracy in the world. I'm happy to hear a brother from South Asia. I was in Sri Lanka about 2 years ago and almost felt I should have jumped across the sea to India. And compliments to your cricket team as well. Jose, tell us a little bit about the contribution of apiculture to sustainable rural development. How significant is apiculture in rural development in India? I noted the attempt to get rid of the middlemen in the whole market scenario there. Tell me, what has that done for our beekeepers? Because essentially, this is what we are trying to do in St. Lucia as well, to see if we can control the various points on the value chain and not and learn the kind of lessons that we should have learned from the banana industry during the colonial period. Let us not repeat those mistakes we made, and let us make the apiculture work for our people in our respective countries. Tell me, Jose, what has happened in India?
There is, I should say that the large portion of the honey market is controlled by corporates, a few corporates together, and there is price war, there is brand wars going on. But in the middle, there are a few organizations or community initiatives like, Under the Mango Tree, which is in Western India, which is a small group of apiculturists. They came together and they created a brand and they were able to sell honey successfully. And people are making good profit. I mean, I cannot summarize it in one go, but good beekeepers, for example, Mr. Joseph, whom I told you, he makes a handsome amount of money by, marketing his own honey and collect honey from other beekeepers and sell it in the local market. So it is an important thing if you do it in the right way. But if you start selling the honey to, commercial buyers or middlemen, then the beekeeper will not earn enough and he has to wrap his business. So that's a problem. So that's what I can answer you in short, but maybe we can have a longer discussion later on this. There are successful models which are implemented by people, and e-commerce is going to be one of the biggest enablers, because I really feel that, honey need not to travel a lot from one point to another point, then to another point. If we can find local beekeepers, that is what we are trying to do. I mean, with my idea, the team's idea, you can actually log into a website and find who's the nearest local beekeeper, click, and 2 clicks, and you order honey and you get it locally. That's it. It is possible. I mean, in some countries, it may not be possible right now, but we should not be thinking what is possible right now. We should think what is possible after 2 years or 5 years. We should be prepared for that. So e-commerce is the answer. And connecting beekeepers with the larger market and enabling them to, sell their honey in a proper packet and to the customer. Don't pack it in an old Pepsi bottle with a rusted lid. Nobody will buy honey from you. Clean honey. Nicely presented and give to a local market, people will buy it and give you premium price. You will get 100% money out of it. That will make it sustainable. Otherwise, it is not sustainable. Thank you.
Okay, Jose, we have a couple of questions online. My technical team is going to try and get these persons to respond to you directly.
Yeah,
oh, you want to ask another question? Yeah, one more question from Mr. Romulus.
Jose, just one more question. We all know that bees are very good indicators of environmental quality. I tell people if I enter any place and I don't hear bees or don't hear insects, I run away, because that's a fairly good indication that the environment quality is very, very bad. But if you go into a place and you hear music, an orchestra of bees and all kinds of animals, you know the health of the environment is better. Have you in India used bees to help you to preserve your biodiversity? In other words, has it helped you to zone maybe, or to make a stronger argument that an area should be declared a protected area or should be conserved in any shape, form, or manner?
Not yet any such things, because we, as a large democracy and with a billion plus people and some forest and tigers and elephants and bees, we do have conservation issues. No bee conservancy is declared. But of course, bees are always looked at as an indicator species. But unfortunately, no such initiative started, but there is a lot of serious talk happening these days. People are talking about pesticides and disappearing of bees and, making bee-friendly environment in urban areas and urban beekeeping. These things are being talked. This is just the beginning of the conversation of bees. I think last couple of years, this understanding bees as a indicator species took the consciousness of people. So it is still an early stage in India. Urban beekeeping is also happening, and a lot of hobbyist beekeepers are getting in touch. So it's just a beginning. I mean, it's probably in the infancy stage. That's all.
Okay, so let's try for a question from the audience, please. Yeah, I think Paul Shepherd. Paul, you have a question?
Maybe Richard,
Yes.
question about from the inspector of apiaries.
Yes.
Of course, Mr. Sinha, it is Richard. I think you tested this app on a couple of apiaries. That's all. So this is not yet rolled out as a full-fledged app. This is just a testing phase. So it's not yet used as an official thing. It is just we are in the testing phase.
We will get to Trinidad very soon and put some get the app tested in like Tobago and Trinidad at the same time. We'll share it with a few beekeepers and to get some more input.
Also, Richard, quickly I will answer Risha. Yes, of course, the mobile app is able to store the data locally if there is no internet connectivity. Whenever there is connectivity, it will push it to the server. So internet connectivity is not an issue in the mobile app.
Great. Any more questions, folks?
I've done that.
I have a question for you, Jose. I think it was, well, there was two questions. I think one passed by. Paul Shepard had a good question. I will raise it on his behalf. To what does he attribute the resurgence of the Apiculture to sac brood disease? Did they start treating, or was it natural selection due to wild bees?
I think I was in my teens, so I was not a scientist, but I will tell you, I think it was natural selection because in a place where all the beehives were lost, we start, when I told you, I found one beehive, and that was definitely natural selection. And wherever, I mean, isolated beehives came out, and we never had such a second wave of TSBV. So it was probably the natural selection, and bees managed to, develop resistance, or maybe it is one particular, genetic line which was resistant towards this virus, and they survived. The colony which I found, as I told you, I still remember, it was a place which was hardly a kilometer away from my house, and we had beekeepers all around. All the colonies were lost, and one colony. I mean, nobody could believe that when I told them that I got a beehive. So it's pure natural selection. I think it's pure natural selection. That's all. Nowadays, very rarely we find this indicators, but it is not spreading that much. Okay. So probably,
sorry,
herd immunity or something like that.
Nowadays, go ahead. I had a question also. I had a question with regards to Apiculture, no propolis in the hives. You said there was no propolis.
Yeah.
So how do they kind of, well, as bees don't have any antibodies, how do the Mellifera uses propolis to create a protected, a sanitized envelope in the hive. So how do the Sirena do that? How do they?
There are a little bit of wax to create a barrier, but it is not as good as propolis. They use wax, but if there are gaps. Serena is not bothered about filling that gap. Serena will allow that gaps to remain. That's a problem. Because of those gaps, this wax moth enter into that. So that's actually a negative quality of Serena, and that enables wasp and probably ants to enter into the colony.
Right.
So they don't have, no.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but not just from a predator standpoint, but just for I've been doing reading some research from a standpoint of that the propolis envelope that bees in the wild create around their colony reduces infection and the spread of diseases within the hive. It keeps their immune system, helps their immune system. Well, not that they have one.
This is an interesting question because neither the dorsata nor the dwarf bees nor Serena, none of them got propolis. Only the damer bees, they have propolis, but that is totally different set of bees. But none of these big bees and Indian rock bee, dorsata and this one Floria, both of them actually stay up in cliffs or in tree branches. They have no protection. They have layers of bees which actually protect the brood and the honey from rain and the sun and the wind.
Interesting.
So it's to study. I mean,
one last question from Jonathan Baines. He asks, is varroa mite a problem in India?
Not yet as a major problem, but in some places they found, but it's not recorded as a major issue. In some parts it was reported, but in few areas only mellifera is used. Those areas it is not a major issue as far as my knowledge.
Okay, great. All right, well, I don't see any more questions coming through. Any closing remarks, Jose? Any more closing remarks? Okay, Hayden's got one. Do you have a lot of swarming issues, as with previous ones mentioned?
Yes, if you don't keep your Serrana bees properly, and if you don't look after them properly, they swarm. I mean, that is one reason. But in the season, if the hive is crowded and if the temperature goes high, and there is plenty of food around, Serrana has a tendency to swarm. So these two occasions you have to manage. During the honey producing season, you have to ensure that the queen cells are destroyed. And in the lean season, that is during monsoon, you should ensure that your hives are clean. The moment your hives getting dampened, wet, and not suitable for bees, they will abandon the hive.
Okay.
So cleanliness is a must for Serrana bees. And also recently something which I'm observing is that if you keep a lot of hives together, say about 30, 40, 50 hives in one area, after the monsoon, they start abandoning hives because I think they sense that there are too many bees, there is too much competition. So let's go and settle in a different place to establish a new colony. So these are possibilities. This needs to be studied.
All right, that's great. That's great. Okay, well, Jose, I think that was a wonderful presentation. Great question and answer session. Some very interesting questions. Is there any closing remarks? What would you like to close?
Yes, Richard. From our month of August conversation till today, it was an interesting journey.
Oh,
and
yes.
This always an energetic and energizing thing to find fellow beaks across the globe, and
yes.
This difficult times finding people like you and Sharda and Solomon and doing something across using technology to connect and do things. That's
Definitely.
really that a lot of things are possible.
Our fortnightly meetings haven't come to an end. They're just beginning now. we have to keep them going.
My boss Loretta is hanging around, and she will ensure that our meetings do happen. There's a lot of us, a lot of you, a lot of the techie guys, Loretta, all of you guys actually helped us to do something creatively during this period. And that's it, Richard. And it's an amazing experience. Let's take it forward, and all the best for the rest of the conference. We'll be hanging around and attending it.
Fantastic.
That's all.
Well, thank you, sir. From my end, I just want to say it's been a fantastic experience working with both yourself, Loretta, Alan, and the rest of the team at Lepotech. In such a short space of time, we were able to bring an idea into fruition, which I think is fantastic. I know for sure this will not be your last Caribbean Beekeepers Congress. I'm sure you'll be a regular attendee moving forward. So we have friends across the waters that will continue. The numbers will grow, hopefully. So it'll be a real transoceanic experience with lots of more Indian beekeepers. So I think on behalf of everybody here at the CBC in the Caribbean, we would like to say a special thanks for your contribution, giving us some insight into what's happening in India, and that we could draw strength from some of the similarities in what we are all doing together. It's still down to box and frames and putting in the time, putting in the blood, sweat, and tears to get the results. If you don't put in the effort, you don't get the results you're looking for. And that seems to be a universal message across the planet that, if you don't put in the work, you won't get the results. Good husbandry brings the best results. All right, to what extent? Okay, one last question, and then we gotta run. From Robert, to what extent is adulterated honey affecting the honey market in India?
Very much.
There you go.
It's happening, and it is untraceable, undetectable. And when you look at the price tags on honey bottles, which is varying from 300 rupees to 1,000 rupees, you know that there is adulteration happening. And I do have first-hand experience of people adulterating honey. It's a sad thing, but that is happening. And that is something which we have to stop. Adulteration. Not everybody, but some bad. There are always some bad guys around.
Okay, Mr. Romulus has one more last question.
It was interesting to see that Jose spoke about honey laundering. Money laundering was what we accustomed to, but he spoke about honey laundering. Now, Jose, you need to explain that to us. What is honey laundering?
Okay, simple. You get cheap quality honey from X country. It's already there in internet. I mean, I just telling you. You get cheap quality adulterated honey from X origin, bring it to a different locality, label it as a honey which is originated from that area, blend it, heat it, condition it, give it a nice flavor, and pack it nicely and sell it off. That's it. So, you know, the honey is not, the origin, the traceability of origin is not possible. It may not be, it may pass some of the usual tests, and the usual suspects in this one is beet syrup and corn syrup. And also I have seen, personally, I have seen beekeepers feeding bees with, you know, sugar syrup and corn syrup, so that, you know, bees actually take it and go back to their hives and produce honey and mix it with real honey and pack it as genuine honey. So that is, in short, honey laundering. There is a Netflix series on dirty food or something like that, if you watch Netflix, and there is one particular episode on honey laundering. So that's something which is very interesting to watch, and that will show you how honey laundering is established illegal activity across continents, and so it's a serious concern, because honey laundering is actually, you know, killing our beekeepers, because if you produce cheap adulterated honey, which we think it is honey, your beekeeper will never be able to sustain that kind of pricing. So that's something which we all across the world, we have to look at that, you know. We should not allow honey laundering.
All right.
Maybe we can.
Yes, sorry. Go ahead. Come on, go ahead.
No, we can connect one-to-one and discuss these things later.
Yes, definitely. We can, myself, Mr. Romulus, and yourself, we can always schedule a meeting. We can discuss these things at much depth. Or maybe I think one of the suggestions our president, Mr. Obi Roberts, has suggested is that now we've really embraced the technology of Zoom, we should try to have maybe even quarterly conferences of the organization to, you know, bind the organization together and get more free thinking information and knowledge exchanges and different things that are happening in the apiculture community. So I think we will definitely be having more of these exchanges, especially via the internet, using the various different platforms they have and perfecting it. And so we shall not, this is the beginning, it's only the beginning. But at this stage, I must say this segment has come to the end, and I'm trying to keep everybody on time today, and I look like I lost that battle because it's 11 minutes past 10, and our next presenter is in exactly 2 minutes. So we're gonna end this session. We're gonna start our next Zoom session, so everybody can log out of this one and log into the next connection, and let's keep it going. So once again, thank you very much, Jose, Loretta. Special thanks. You know, bless you guys, man. You guys are impressive. Thank you. Thank you. next segment, we have some fantastic students, some fantastic folks from the University of West Indies. And they are going to do, their title of their technical presentation is Botanical Identification and Chemical Profiling of Honey in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, so let's have a big round of applause for the team from the University of West Indies. And the floor is yours. Do go ahead, guys. It's all up to you. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Saraswati Sankar, and myself, Vanessa Lewis, and Riaz Hussain will be presenting on honey testing. So just making sure everybody could hear me and see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So we are familiar with honey, the naturally sweet substance made by honeybees. And there are two main types, blossom honey and honeydew honey. Blossom honey is made from bees feeding on plant nectar, while honeydew honey is made from bees feeding on plant excretions or excretions of insects like aphids. The content of honey includes sugars, carbohydrates, and acids, more or less in the percentages shown in the orange hexagon diagram to your right. Honey also varies in color, fluidity, flavor, and aroma depending on the source of nectar and other processes. The beekeeping industry in Trinidad and Tobago has existed since the 18th century, and there are more than 400 beekeepers. But there has been little to no scientific research examining honey and its relation to the foraging environment. The apiculture industry has a lack of quality and standard control as there's no apiaries unit or an assigned laboratory for testing. Sending samples abroad for testing is costly, so it is not done often. Therefore, this research at UWI can assist with honey classification, establishing standards, and improving marketing and branding. Our objectives were to determine the pollen content of honey samples from local apiaries throughout Trinidad and Tobago, to determine physiochemical and antioxidant properties as listed, and to compare these properties with international standards to establish acceptable levels for consumer use. Now, I shall begin with investigating pollen. Pollen is a main protein source which provides fats, lipids, minerals, and vitamins. It is collected.
You know, time just now, so I want to listen to him.
On a class day.
Yeah.
All right, I'll lift ya.
Yeah.
All right, he does lift ya.
He doing chemistry, but they having something today.
I'll come back next day. It's already one of the calories stuff. I'll come back.
But you see what I have.
Can you mute your mics, please? Please, on the session, if you're not presenting, please mute your mics. If you're not presenting, I think we got picked up some big stuff there. All right, please continue, please continue, please continue.
Okay, thank you. So we're talking about pollen. Pollen is a main source which provides fats, lipids, and minerals, as well as vitamins, and is collected by worker bees who store the pellets in honeycomb cells, as you could see from the images. Pollen could also get mixed in with nectar and be regurgitated into the same cells, and it could also get combined with honey when honeybees groom in the hive or via air currents, and when frames are being handled by the beekeepers. The study of pollen is referred to as melissopalynology, and this study uses the method proposed by the ICBB, or International Commission for Bee Botany, and pollen research is useful as it establishes the nature and quality of a honey and knowledge of forage plants, which is beneficial to beekeepers and for marketing purposes. Pollen grains have unique characteristics, so they can be identified into distinctive types. And these characteristics include dispersal unit, aperture number and type, ornamentation, tectum and shape. So an example is shown here between two pollen grains where you can see they differ totally in their characteristics, where you have units being, if they are single or multiple sections, you have aperture numbers. which are the different layers and the types. There are various types. Ornamentation is usually what you see at the perimeter of the pollen grains. And you also have tectum and shape. So, for this study, I have followed the ICBP method for non-acetylized pollen, as this is a cheaper, more environmentally friendly method. So the flowers of blooming plants around the apiary were collected, identified, and voucher specimens were prepared as shown in these diagrams. Pollen was extracted from both plant and honey samples from the same apiary, and a process of centrifugation and retaining the pellet was carried out. The pellet or sediment containing the pollen grains were placed on a slide, and the grains were then photographed using a camera attached to a light microscope. The pollen grains from plant material form the pollen atlas or index, and these were used to compare pollen from the honey samples for identification. Pollen grains were counted, and each pollen grain's characteristics were recorded, grouped, and a pollen key was used for identification. There was then reference to local pollen atlases and world atlases. The photograph to your right shows some pollen from this study, where two you could see are from the Asteraceae family or daisy family, and their notable characteristic is having echinate ornamentation or multiple spikes. Pollen frequency was calculated according to the displayed formula, and this allows us to determine plant genus or species having the predominant amount, which would allow us to class a honey as unifloral if one species exceeds 45%, or multifloral if no one species is 45%. And the table to your right shows the two samples used from the study vary in pollen content, as the frequencies of the identified pollen families differ. And you could also see the plant common names from these families, so these are plants we'll be familiar with. Right, and now I shall pass you on to my colleague, Vanessa Lewis.
So you're muted, Vanessa. I think your mic is muted, so you need to unmute.
Hi, good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Hearing and seeing?
We are seeing also.
Okay, thanks. Good morning. My name is Minetta Lewis, and I will be presenting on the antioxidant properties of Trinidad and Tobago honey. Antioxidants can be defined as a substance that inhibits the reactions promoted by free radicals, which are single atoms with unpaired electrons. Elevated free radicals can cause damage to lipids and proteins, leading to many health complications, as a scavenging body to seek out another electron because electrons prefer to be in pairs. Antioxidants are molecules that intercept the free radicals from taking electrons and causing damages. They do so by giving an electron to the free radical, thereby stopping the chain reaction. Honey is composed of 181 components, and the main antioxidants found in honey are phenolic acids and flavonoids, and they are very important in food preservation and in human health. Also, it should be noted that these antioxidant properties are greatly influenced by the geographical and botanical origin of the honey, such as flora diversity, climatic conditions, and soil composition. Some general information about the antioxidant tests used for honey testing are the total phenolic content. This tests for the phenolic compounds in honey, which are secondary metabolites in plants, and these are chemical compounds produced by the plant cells. The phenolic compounds are responsible for the sensorial properties of the plants, such as color, taste, and aroma. Studies have also shown that these compounds can lower the incidence of cancer and other diseases, and there are 16 major classes of phenolic compounds, one of them being flavonoids. So the total flavonoid content tests for flavonoids in the honey, which is the most abundant type of phenolic compound. They protect the plants against phytopathogens, and are responsible for the coloration of flowers to attract pollinators. Studies have also shown that these flavonoids can also reduce the risk of certain diseases, and there are 6 classes of flavonoids with variations in their structure. The DPPH free radical scavenging activity tests the ability of compounds to act as free radical scavengers or hydrogen donors. So this test actually quantifies the antioxidant's ability to quench the DPPH radical, which is a stable free radical. Therefore, a higher DPPH value means that the honey has a higher antioxidant activity. Lastly, the ferric reducing or antioxidant power assay is a simple and direct test used by many scientists as an antioxidant test, and it simply reduces iron 3+ to iron 2+, and the total reducing power of the antioxidant is directly related to the change in absorbance. The samples were collected directly from the hive. The date of extraction, apiary number, and the geographic location where the samples were collected were properly labeled, and the samples were stored at room temperature away from sunlight until further analysis. This is a summary of the methods carried out. So firstly, the honey samples were dissolved in methanol and were filtered, then the suitable tests were carried out. So for the total phenolic content, Fallon's reagent and sodium carbonate were added to the filtered sample, incubated for 2 hours at room temperature, and the absorbance were taken at 765 nanometers. The total flavonoid content, 2% aluminum chloride and methanol, were added to the filtered sample. The samples were incubated for 10 minutes at room temperature, and the absorbance were recorded at 450 nanometers. For the total antioxidant capacity, deionized water and the reagent solution were added to the filtered sample, and the reagent solution consisted of sulfuric acid, ammonium malodate, and sodium phosphate. The samples were incubated at 95 degrees C for 90 minutes, and the absorbance were recorded at 695 nanometers. The DPPH free radical scavenging activity, Tris HCl and DPPH were added to the filtered sample. Samples were incubated for 2 hours in the dark, and the absorbance was taken at 570 nanometers. Lastly, for the frap, the honey samples were dissolved in distilled water instead of the methanol, and the frap reagent was added to the honey solution. Samples were incubated for 4 minutes in a water bath at 37 degrees C, and the absorbance were taken at 593 nanometers. These are some values from literature, and for Trinidad values, a preliminary study was done for the total phenolic content, total flavonoid content, and the total antioxidant capacity test. Generally, the antioxidant activities of local honey samples were comparable from other areas of the world. In particular, for the total phenolic content, Trinidad honey, which is multifloral, was higher compared to other multifloral sources such as Slovenia and Poland. Also, the differences in these values, which represent the antioxidant properties, may also be attributed to the variety of food sources throughout the honey season for local bees, as compared to a unifloral source for the other studies. I will now pass you on to Reyes.
Morning, everyone. I hope everyone can see my screen here now.
Yes, we can. Morning. Everything is good.
Great. So, as my colleague mentioned, my name is Riaz, and I will be running you through the physicochemical properties of honey in Trinidad and Tobago. So, firstly, it is important that we establish the importance of these properties. So, honey's quality is defined mainly by its sensory, physicochemical, and microbiological characteristics. This physicochemical testing is conducted internationally in order to discern the quality of honey, and is even used for identification of adulteration in honey. For example, certain physicochemical properties such as pH and moisture must be adhered to against international standards before commercialization of the honey in Trinidad's market. So in order to understand the basic concept of these physicochemical properties, we can move on to the parameters that were tested in Trinidad, and I will explain the significance of each one that was tested with respect to honey. So firstly, we have moisture, which is defined as the liquid present or water that is present in honey, and this affects many different factors such as the viscosity and the growth of microorganisms in your honey. It is important because it will determine fermentation, and by extension, it will determine the length of your shelf life of the honey. Secondly, we have pH, which is also a factor that determines the hindrance of microbacteria and the growth of microbacteria, and by extension, it will delay the growth and extend or hinder your shelf life. We then have electrical conductivity, which, as we know, honey is considered a superfood. So this superfood would consider composed of different elements such as zinc, calcium, and potassium, and these elements are essential for human health. However, these elements are considered ionizable, meaning that when dissolved, they can conduct electricity. And being able to conduct electricity, if we do this test, it will relate the mineral content of the honey sample back to the concentration of the minerals that are present in that sample. Then we have specific rotation, which enables us to differentiate between honey, blossom honey and honeydew honey. And this will be further explained in a future slide to come. And lastly, we have optical density, which is a classification of honey by its color. So on this slide here, we have a summary of the methods that was used to conduct each of these tests. And this method was taken from IHC, which is known as the International Honey Commission. So this is a standardized method for testing, which is recognized globally for honey internationally. So just to brief you through, honey was first diluted with distilled water, and it was homogenized as a sample preparation step, where it was then subjected to each of the tests as follows. So for pH, the pH was recorded using a calibrated pH meter, and similarly, for electrical conductivity, the sample was tested using an electrical conductivity meter. For specific rotation, we subjected the sample to a special Caras 1 and Caras 2 solution, and then the sample was subjected to angular rotation measurements. With respect to optical density, the sample was tested in a spectrophotometer at 560 nanometers, and with respect to moisture, the sample was recorded after sample preparation at 50 degrees Celsius using a refractometer. And in this column here, we simply have some images of the apparatus or instruments that are used to conduct these tests. And on this slide, I have listed the results of our findings in Trinidad's honey and placed it alongside results of similar studies conducted in other countries, as well as against the Codex standard. So this standard is an internationally acknowledged standard as well, and it places threshold values for certain parameters of honey, such as the pH, electrical conductivity, and so on, which must be adhered to in order to consider the quality of the honey. So from these results, it is safe to say that the Trinidad's honey results are comparable with those seen in other countries. There are no significant sort of differences. But what is more important to notice is that the values found in Trinidad falls within the criteria for the Codex standard. With respect to specific rotation, as I said, I'll get back to that. And here we are. We can see that we have a negative value for Trinidad's specific rotation, as well as a negative value for Portugal's specific rotation. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun there. Right. So this negative value would indicate to you that both of these samples belong to blossom honey. The reason being is because this test conducted is affected by the composition of the sugar in the honey. So if there's more fructose present than glucose in the honey, the instrument will give you a negative reading, and vice versa. If there's more glucose present than fructose, one would expect a positive value. With respect to optical density, we can see the value for Trinidad is 0.33, and the honey from Palestine give you a value of 0.13. So this is measured alongside something known as the PFON scale, and the PFON scale really gives you these readings which corresponds with certain colors. So for example, the honey from Palestine, which is 0.13, would correspond to the color of extra white, while the color of 0.33 for Trinidad will correspond to white as for the color of honey in Trinidad. So in summary, what my colleagues were saying, the pollen types belonging to 10 families were identified from 2 honey samples, which were classified as multifloral. Antioxidant properties of Trinidad and Tobago's honey were comparable to honey found in other regions, and there are differences in antioxidant properties attributed to different botanical origins and variations in feeding patterns of the bees between Trinidad and Tobago's honey and others. With respect to the physicochemical parameters, those observed for local samples in Trinidad were seen to fall within the threshold value of the Codex standard for honey. Here we have our slide with the references where we would have gotten our information. And here's where we give thanks to our certain people who helped us with our research, such as our supervisory committee, Department of Chemistry and Life Sciences of the University of the West Indies, the beekeeping groups who submitted their samples to us, our ATS staff, and thanks to our colleagues and friends. And we would like to thank the audience for listening, and we welcome any sort of questions that you may have.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was a very, very, very interesting presentation. I think it answers a lot of questions into the future for beekeepers, where they should be going and the question they should be asking. I think Mr. Romulus has a question for us.
Hello? Yes, a statement and a question. Let me first of all compliment the students from UWI St. Augustine. Fantastic piece of work. I think our present generation of students are introducing science into our lives in many ways, and I think that is laudable, and you should compliment it for that. And I think the future in the Caribbean is about research and innovation, and I think doing that kind of original work is something that needs to be lauded and continued, and also passed on to other Caribbean islands. The question about teaching other Caribbean islands to do those kinds of analyses, have you all thought about that? Do you all have a teaching video? Can we depend on you all? We are about to launch a major project in St. Lucia and in 7 other countries in the world, including Trinidad and some more in the Pacific, where we are looking at apiculture and biodiversity. That kind of analysis that you're doing will be important, and we are thinking of incorporating it into the research component of our proposal. And the fact that you've blazed the trail, meaning that we will hang on to your lab coats to find out how this is done. So please tell me, have you all thought about those things?
Well, I can cover the other aspects what my colleagues covered, but with respect to the physical-chemical properties, I think we are just trying to demonstrate and implement something here in Trinidad. So once it's optimized here, then we can think further. But I think we're just trying to get it optimized and make sure it's good in Trinidad first, and then we'll talk about it being trained otherwise.
Yeah, that's very good. I know I spoke to when we had our initial meeting, it's something that I did express that we had some interest in trying to expand at least your data collection from other sources, not just in Trinidad. But we're happy to help you grow and work with you while you grow. We wouldn't inundate you with 2 zillion samples as a backlog, but definitely I think if you could give us that, share that insight for a lot of other people, I think that'd be, but a lot of congratulations are coming in. I see some questions popping up on our question and answer, so if you want to answer them directly yourselves, or I can read them off for you. Your countryman and your chief apiarist, Mr. Hayden Sinanan, very informative presentation. We need to expand this research. I 100% back that statement, Mr. Sinanan. He also says, as usual, willing to be part of this. So you've got an ally to give you all the honey you need. Monique Johnson, was there anything that stood out from your analysis that would make the local honey notably different to what was found elsewhere? Also, thank you to your team for pursuing this type of research. Who wants to take a crack at that one?
Well, on my end, because we have such unique biodiversity here, unique flora, I think that would give to like some special unifloral honeys. So where we have more mangroves, more coconut, and in the Mora forest as well, you'll have some really unique tasting honey, at least I could say that.
Yes. So, I think the question they were trying to get, though, or what they were trying to pursue was from your antibacterial research, which was there anything that's like, I mean, I think Dr. Jessamy used Manuka honey as the benchmark when the research that she was doing. Have you found any honeys that are special, good to treating wounds? I mean, I can relate to a certain circumstance I have here in St. Lucia. There is some persons that contacted me, and they buy honey from me on a regular basis to do wound care. And they said the honey works, which they purchased from me, and I try to keep it to a specific set because I put my honey in certain batches. That it works well in the treatment and the healing of the bed sores and the wounds that the person has. So, have you been able to zoom in on specifics that this honey works well for this or this honey works well for that, or is it just very general still?
Hi, right now the testing is just general right now, but what I can say from the preliminary studies that we have done from the antioxidant test, you can see, I'm not too sure you remember the slides with the values. Ours were, if you're comparing to multiflora sources, ours were higher. So, I mean, it's kind of safe to say that ours are good right now.
There you go. There you go. So, and that would concur with information that Dr. Jessamy shared a couple of days ago. I wish she was online. I'm sure she has. I wish she was. I hope she's online. Is she online? I don't know. I don't see. She is. Hopefully she'll give us some questions. Ian Cockburn, he has a question. Where can we have our honey? When can we have our tested, or where? So I think you guys answered that. It's still a work in progress. Jason Latrin says, I'm really glad to be a part of this program. Information is well valid. Thank you for your time and efforts in presenting. So that's a big thumbs up there. We got one from Robert Mutsui. Given the different honey parameters you have shared, such as moisture, pH, etc., from different countries, will the honey have the same shelf life and ideal storage temperatures?
Right, can you just repeat the question, please?
If you click on the button at the bottom, it says Q&A. You can get all these on the bottom next to chat between participants and chat.
Oh, right. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Popping up right there.
So given the different honey parameters you have shared, such as moisture, from different countries, will the honey have the same shelf life? Oh no, definitely not. The composition of the honey will ultimately affect these factors, the pH, moisture, etc. And those factors is what define how your honey will respond in terms of shelf life and in taste, aroma, and efficacy and all these things. So it would differ, if that would answer your question.
Okay, I see.
I'd just like to add that as per now from the research I'm doing as well, I'll be comparing my values for this year, 2020 to 2021 samples. So I can actually test to see if these values change over time.
Fantastic, fantastic. Very good, very good. Wonderful. Dr. Jessamy's complimented you guys, says good work. She says we tested the antioxidant potential of various honeys from Grenada. So she's just giving you some insight to what she's done. That's good. What was the range of samples collected? Somebody asked. Dr. Jessamy asks, what was the DPPH values range from 35 to 66, which were very high? Anyone want to comment on that?
So with respect to the range of samples, we aim to collect as much as possible. That's why we thank the farmers. They voluntarily give us samples. So we had roughly between 40 to 50 samples. Yeah?
Okay.
To the DPPH value, we haven't discussed that as yet, but I'm in the process of running the tests.
Okay. All right, thank you. There's a couple there. Is there a beekeeping course at University of Winter, University of the West Indies? That's Hugh Miller, Jamaica. I'm not sure. I think these guys are scientists. I don't think they're in there.
Well, we can shed some light into that. There's a course that will be coming in the future, hopefully, once things go smoothly. Yeah?
All right. Okay, for the DPPH, Dr. Jessamy says that's the values for Grenada, honey. Okay. Well, questions are coming in. Dr. Mahabir. She's got a good one there for you. Please inform that University of West Indies has committed to teaching beekeepers to do basic honey testing. That is a start. The University of West Indies students have agreed to prepare videos to help farmers across the region with basic testing and also advise on small, reasonable equipment they can purchase. So I think Dr. Mahabir's, I think she spoke to your peers. I remember that came out in a meeting that we'll possibly be looking at doing that. All right, any other questions? How many and which areas provided samples?
Right, so as I mentioned, it was roughly 40 to 50, and we specifically took from each area of Trinidad, that be Northeast, Northwest, Central, and so on, to try and get the best representative samples to represent Trinidad.
Okay, great. Peter Matthews says, excellent presentation, well-conducted research, best wishes for the future research. So more thumbs up. Everybody really greatly appreciated of the work that you guys are doing there in Trinidad. You know, it's a testament to, you know, the organization you're a part of, the University of West Indies. So good stuff. Mr. Mohammed Alim. What was the range of moisture content of the honey samples?
Right. I won't go and open up my result sheet now, but I think it was roughly between 17 to 19, around there.
Okay, that sounds about right. That's good. In Kopo, are there prospects of using local honey for medicinal purpose being fully explored? I think Dr. Jessamy spoke of that. And I think with the research these young folks are doing in Trinidad, that will probably become a very realistic opportunity for beekeepers and scientists in the near future. So definitely that's on the pipeline. Dr. Jessamy asked one last question. Have you tested the antimicrobial activity?
Not as yet, but it's something that we could look forward to in the future.
Okay, great stuff. All right, guys. It's 10:48, and I'm really trying to fight Father Time today. If there's no more questions, I would just like you guys to do a closing wrap-up, and we can call this one a wrap. If anybody got some closing comments? Anybody? Miss Lewis? Ms. Sankar, Mr. Hussein?
We'd just like to thank you for inviting us. We really looked forward to it.
My pleasure. It was a great... Thank you. Well, I hope to see you guys back 2 years from now, or maybe 6 months from now, with some more interesting results, some more interesting data and statistics. And I think in the very near future, hopefully we'll be able to get a few samples in, and you will be able to at least 1 or 2 samples from your neighboring islands. I know Trinidad has some, you know, there's a lot of rules and regulations of honey entering, but I know Dr. Mohammed and team are working on trying to see if they can get the right procedures in place that 1 or 2 samples can come in to give us, your brothers and sisters in the rest of the Caribbean, to benefit from some of the research that you guys have been doing. Okay, Ian Cockburn says, thank you all for giving us the motivation to continue with the honey production and other products. So more thumbs up. Yeah, so I think that's it, guys. I really appreciate your time, taking off some time from your busy schedule. Dr. Jessamy says, excellent once again. And you know, thank you, and keep on doing what you're doing. The research that you're doing is invaluable, and it will help beekeepers in the Caribbean in the long run. They may not see it now, but in time, I think they will see the wisdom in the research that you guys are doing. Any closing remarks from you, Mr. Romulus, or are you good, sir? Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and we're gonna take a 15-minute interlude, and we will run into our next session at exactly 11 o'clock. So all participants, the next presentation will be from our good friend in Jamaica, Mr. Hugh Miller. He's going to be talking about apiculture impacting the Caribbean through social behavior changes. So log back in at 11 o'clock. You can enjoy some of our nice promotional videos that will be shown in that 15-minute period. Thank you very much. We're signing off. Bye. Back in 15.
as you can see, we have some brood, some capped brood. And we have some open brood there, or wet brood.
Okay, my name is Richard Matthias. I'm the president of the Ianola Apiculture Collective. This particular location at the Casa del Vega in Vigi, where we have our interpretation center located. It was originally conceptualized as a project for tourism, so we could incorporate work with the cruise ship passengers to, when they come briefly to St. Lucia for an hour or so, that they could come experience the bees, experience some different flavors of honey, different types of food cooked with honey, and get a little bit of the history of apiculture in the Caribbean and especially St. Lucia. And then we also have some hives here which they can do a hive inspection and see the queen and the drones and the worker bees and taste the honey directly from the hive. So because of COVID, we had to adapt a little bit, and we started to pursue doing local training and holding seminars for local beekeepers and persons that are interested in getting into beekeeping. The bees we have in here are very nice, gentle bees. We've specifically bred them for this location. We've looked at the characteristics of all of our different hives. This still works, it's in bad condition. These are a number of general citizens of St. Lucia that have interested in getting to learn a little bit more about beekeeping before they start making financial investment into beekeeping. We found that a lot of people they hear about beekeeping, they hear about the potential revenue that can be derived from producing honey, but there's not much background given into, well, this is, it's not just the bees in the box and the bees do their thing. You have to manage it as in it's livestock. So there's a lot of do's and don'ts, a lot of things you need to learn. So we developed this 6-week course to allow people who have an interest in the subject to give them some exposure, take them out on a few field trips, come to a few of our apiaries.
That's a crown bud, so we pop the crown bud off, smoke.
And really give them the technical insight to the technical support they really need to know before they make the plunge. So before you take out a couple $100 or $1,000 or more and you invest in bees, and then you give up after 6 months, that's money down the drain. Where if you get a gradual introduction and you can gauge if this is what you really want to do.
This is a cell builder, and a cell builder is saturated with nurse bees. And nurse bees, because nurse bees produce secretion called royal jelly.
My name is Mujahid, and I represent an organization called ASLAM, which stands for Association of St. Lucian Muslims. We respect nature as Muslims, and we want to find a way to live in harmony with nature, so it was just natural for us to gravitate towards like bees.
My name is Denzel Louis, and I'm from Marvin Possa. Well, I've learned a lot of new things about the different species and where to set up the hives and how to set them up in the proper spots.
In this area here, we have some 12-hour larvae. So this is going to be our grafting frame.
Apiculture is, it's all about the numbers. Beekeeping is about the numbers. The more colonies of hives you have, is the more honey potentially you can produce. So you obviously, if you're a honey producer, you want to have as many hives as possible. So the equipment will cost a little bit.
So we just look for the queen again quickly. She will be walking, so we'll be looking across the frame just to try to spot her.
Where you can grow easily with bees is that once you've got, say, you've got your first 5 or 6 colonies of bees, you can multiply those colonies into more bees as time goes by. With good management techniques, you can do that. So once you buy your first 5 colonies, technically you don't need to buy any more colonies after that.
Okay, my name is Jacques Mather. A new upcoming beekeeper. Me being a chef, I like to know where my products come from. I like to know where the honey comes from, how it's produced, what goes on in producing honey. So that's what I'm here to learn.
I find it's really opened up my mind. I was only looking at bees as something, or pest or something to sting me. But now I actually see like opportunity with it. So I don't know if I'll go into it right away, but it was an eye-opener for me, and it's probably another direction, you could take.
It's going to be a cost. You have to buy boxes, you have to buy frames, you have to get the different things to manage your bees, to keep your bees healthy. All right, so there are a number of different things along the way that you would need that will clock up the money.
Why did you think you will get into honey production?
I think it's because it's a good secondary income for myself, and there's also good practices you can learn from it as well.
So now that you're getting this deeper appreciation of what's involved, is it something that you think you'd like to do for a while?
Oh yes, I think this is something that I can easily fit into anything that I'm doing. It's something that's quick, easy, and when you're in the right community, people will always come and help you, no matter what you do.
Only going into bee farming for honey will not make you a millionaire. You actually have to, yeah, that's the most important thing. You actually have to look at the other aspects of having bees to actually benefit from it.
That and a lot of other stuff I've learned here. We also the practical aspect of it. Today we'll be doing like grafting. We'll be grafting queens, like basically making more queens. Yeah, it's really good. It's a good thing, and I would encourage anybody to look into apiculture. Yeah, it's profitable, but you shouldn't do it for the money. You should do it because of the passion and the benefits it has for the environment.
Well, as you can see from our project here, we got a lot of assistance from GFSGP. We've got a lot of help through them over the years, and they helped a lot of apiculture projects in St. Lucia. There's a lot of awareness, and as long as people are aware of the importance of bees into the biodiversity of the country, it's all good. So the more people are aware of bees and they think about bees, and the less they use harmful chemicals like gramaxone and touchdown, which can have been proven to have diverse effects on the bees globally, we're all in good stead. So it's important that if you want to look at your natural ecosystem.
Sorry about that, folks. Hugh, are you there? Hugh? Good day, Hugh. Hugh Miller?
Yes, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. I think you started your presentation already.
Oh, well, no, I didn't.
You didn't? Ah, fantastic. You were just doing, okay, great. Okay, so you ready to start,
sir? I was just doing some testing.
Okay, great. So are you ready, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so ready. Good morning, everybody.
So are you seeing us?
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead, sorry.
I'm seeing your screen, and I'm hearing you. So I assume everything is all right on that end. Technical team, are we good? All right, we're rolling. So, if you could start your presentation, Mr. Miller, and let's go for it. I'm really interested to see. I think this presentation would be should be of great interest to organizations that do community work with young kids. So I think this is a great presentation, and I want to thank you in advance for the work that you've been doing in Jamaica and trying to bring young people into the craft. All right, so Hugh, let's go, man. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate this medium to pass information and collect information in beekeeping. I want to acknowledge all the organizers who made the effort despite the pandemic to make this happen. Although I really wanted to be in St. Lucia. But yes, all right. So you're seeing my screen. I just want to confirm that.
Yes, we're seeing a screen on YouTube right now.
All right. You're seeing an image of me.
You see the image of you, correct? Yes.
All right. So let's go. All right. So I'm Hugh Miller. I studied sociology. And then I ventured into beekeeping recently, 2014 to be exact. And I've fallen in love with the insect, When I came into beekeeping, it was a hush-hush industry, and probably still is in some instances. By hush-hush, I mean there was not a lot of beekeepers who were willing to share as much information as was needed for persons to be able to develop themselves. And so when I came into it, I had the drive to share the information, which I wasn't think that I didn't think was a bad thing, you know what I mean? Because when you go on the YouTube and look at videos, you mostly see videos from international market, Caucasian people doing their thing from their climate and so on. Not much on the Caribbean, you know. Thanks to Gladstone and yourself, Richard, who have been putting out information on the internet and so on.
Cool.
All right, so this paper presents social behavior change through honeybee educational tours, specifically for primary and tertiary students, right? I see it as a critical stabilizer for apiculture to be a super bioeconomy for the Caribbean. The practice of generational beekeeping for sustainable results rely on sharing knowledge and the impact of change for the long term. You know, we have to think long term when we think about sustainability. So my intention is to take you through the different strategies that can be employed through disseminating the information needed for all of us to take part in this sustainable development by using the biological resources to provide food and services that we need. All right, so this is more of an ethnographic presentation in terms that it's really a lot about my experience. It also will include things that it's among the beekeeping industry and so on. All right, so in 2014, I got involved in beekeeping more directly. That is because, as you know, all of us are involved regardless, because the contribution that bees give to our daily lives, even if we're unaware of it, is we're all a part. It's a very short time that I've been in beekeeping and much to uncover still. It started when my lecturer at the University of West Indies, Mona Jalani Naya, introduced me to beekeeping, saying that I should consider doing beekeeping. He was doing it as an outreach project at the University of West Indies, reaching at-risk youths from nearby communities around the university. This project was an initiative out of the Rastafari Study Center that was being developed at the time. You know, Rastafari can be seen as a naturalistic lifestyle of a group of people who appreciates a simple way of life. This group is commonly recognized by several factors, such as, but not excluding, food, culture, aesthetics, so on. Arguably, beekeeping and Rastafari can be seen as something, you know, in the line of culture and natural. You know, we practice natural beekeeping most of the time, say in Jamaica. You know, we don't really use, I saw Hugh Smith presentation yesterday where we don't use much of the treatment, the technical treatment with bees. We might consider feeding every now and then, but as much as natural as we can be, we normally in that type of beekeeping. Generally, beekeeping across the board is the same everywhere, with a few adjustments to climate, culture, and practices. You know, but there are more standards to beekeeping than there are differences, which is why I was able to expand my experience through international training out of the beekeeping outreach project that was happening at the University of West Indies Safari Center. I spent approximately 6 months in Wolf Point, Montana, I was motivated to make a significant impact on return. So Miller's apiary is what I developed, you know, and through that institute. So apiary is an acronym, like, so it's not spelled with a Y at the end, but an I to represent institute, where it's Miller's Agricultural Programs, Internship and Research Institute. It was developed out of the need for international exposure for students in agriculture, more information to be shared among local beekeepers, and too many unanswered questions in beekeeping, health, and technology. Miller's April developed a honeybee interactive tour to start its journey to contribute to creating awareness of the impact of bees, importance of bees. When people become more knowledgeable of agriculture, they can change their behavior to impact the economy, or the bioeconomy, for this instance. All right, so the Caribbean. So the title of this paper incorporates the Caribbean, but it mostly speaks specifically to the third largest in the Caribbean Sea, Jamaica. The Caribbean can be described as a chain of islands stretching from the Bahamas in the north to Trinidad in the south, plus the islands of Bermuda and the South American countries of Guyana and Suriname. Countries in the Caribbean all have different cultural practices with similar climatic conditions and landscape. Already, the Caribbean already being equipped with the tropical climate and forestry to facilitate and complement apiculture to almost perfection, give and take the climate changes. Also, the Caribbean possesses 50% of the world's known biodiversity, 57% of its primary forests, and considered the region with the greatest availability of land for farming. It is only left up to us to design
Hi, Hugh.
projects.
Richard, hi, yeah. Hugh. We can't see your screen, mate. All we can see is your YouTube.
Oh, you can't see the screen?
Nah. We're just seeing your YouTube's screen. That's what we're seeing.
All right, let me fix that. Alrighty, let's share that.
Just looking at the.
All right, what about now?
Bingo, perfect. That's it, mate. So it says the Caribbean, with the Caribbean possessing 50% of the world's known biodiversity, 50%. So we're there. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Okay, that's where I am.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Oh. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, yeah, so the Caribbean now having the almost perfect conditions for apiculture. It is only left for us to design projects and programs to utilize these resources to impact our bioeconomy. All right, so, you know, sometimes we don't take it for granted that everyone is aware who is here listening and watching you. I've invited people, so as simple as the terminology, apiculture. Google says a technical term for beekeeping, which is the practice of rearing and keeping bees. In its simplest form, beekeeping has not been given its true appreciation of importance, in my view, in light of the significant contributions honeybees add to our daily existence. It is actually shameful that so many of us are unaware of their value. Needless to mention apiculture as a bioeconomy for the Caribbean. For many, that would be too technical, too much to absorb. However, this is changing, for there are and have been many programs and activities that have now begun to share more about bees and their importance, and will eventually change people's behavior towards them. So what is social behavior change. So the title of this paper is Apiculture, Impacting the Caribbean Through Social Behavior Change. Social behavior change refers to the implementing and the effective communication strategies and activities towards altering behavior to encourage desirable human practices. The growth of any economy is depending on the education, skill, and talent of its people. We design cultural programs. Unfortunately, it is not that simple, as information and advice alone, many social behavior change theories will tell you, is not sufficient to impact behavior change. Behavior is a product of an individual or a collective action to do or not to do something. There are several theories of behavior change, but for the purpose of apiculture, this is less challenging, somewhat. The change we see to get people is to get people more involved in how they interact with nature and honeybees. The strategies have been suggested include. So therefore, these strategies being suggested include both information and activity. Whether it is simply providing knowledge or to send information for an in-person activity, behavior change, the technology now widens the scope to communicate and give information through these mediums. The behavior change in this case is to influence social and economical good. The greater benefit is for society and not for the organization or the entity sharing the information. Once those impacted understand the importance and have some personal experience with the effects, then will apiculture be a powerful bioeconomy for the Caribbean. The bioeconomy, I like to take things in pieces, According to a 2020 new edition report for agriculture and rural development, the bioeconomy is the knowledge-based intensive use of biological resources, processes, technologies, and principles for sustainable provision of goods and services across all sectors of the economy. Okay, let's break this down a bit. Knowledge-based, that's straightforward. So it's the knowledge-based. In order for us to use any product or service, or in this case, apiculture, as a bioeconomic force, we must equip ourselves and others with knowledge of what this is and how it works. I learned about this beekeeping congress via WhatsApp messaging about a year ago. To be honest, I never thought of apiculture and or bioeconomy before this congress. Collectively in this way, I know the value of bees and what they contribute to our daily existence, but I never thought externally to make the connection through discussion, which again, the importance of this forum. The next part of the definition is the intensive use of these biological resources. So once you get the knowledge now is how to use it, right? So intensive use speaks to focusing solely on the area being looked at, in this case apiculture. How then will we use apiculture intensively to impact our economy and give us all better standards of living? Once one become aware and gain knowledge, then one will be able to focus on how one can use effectively all that is to be derived from apiculture. That is the resources from this scale, the processes towards the results, the technologies to be used to assist. I hear a lot of app presentations so far, I'm excited. For provision technologies, right? Technologies to be used to assist. And what I consider important, the principle to be gained from the sustainable provision of goods and services. So as it relates to the principles to be gained, you know, there are some principles you will develop as a beekeeper. You know, I mean, ethics. You know, I mean, I started earlier with the notion of beekeepers not wanting to share information, and it's because what I've learned is that the beekeepers, they realize that the younger beekeepers, the ethics that they should develop from the activity of beekeeping is not right, because you don't, I've heard established beekeepers say there are younger beekeepers who want to learn beekeeping to steal hives. You know what I mean? It's a tragic thing. So we also, while we share information, we still have to be a little, but you know, that's another topic to talk about data licensing in this conference. All right, so that's the bioeconomy. Now, so we talked about the apiculture, a bioeconomy for the Caribbean, then is a real case for we can now begin to dig into many aspects of this reality. Let us take, for example, my international training experience where I saw my host use the waste from rendered wax as fuel for a heater during the winter time. The planting of 100 cotton trees was also an activity for us as trainees. Our forestry department in the Caribbean, all of our forestry departments and forestry department can team up with beekeepers to keep our forests booming with the tree planting activities. I would say let us establish a beekeeping tree planting day. You know, that we know that for that day, all beekeepers among the Caribbean will be planting at least 100 trees. I mean, or it could be organized in whichever way. All of which is critical for us to continue life on this earth. So much can be said and written about how we are going to make the impact powerful, but we must join forces in helping to teach and make the Caribbean the #1 producer of all the byproducts of beekeeping by assisting to grow and maintain the landscape for honeybees. All right, so how do we link now behavior changes and bioeconomy? Right? So Miller's April Honeybee Tour started out of a relationship with a client who owned hives and wanted structure and management. We worked together for a few years and continued to stay in touch even after the business contract ended. I received a call from the client one day in 2017 about giving talk to primary school children about bees. The client was asked to do it, but was too busy, so I agreed. Ms. Thompson, who I met at the institution, further asked if I had somewhere for students to visit an actual bee farm, as they were teaching the students about insects, and honeybees was the focus at the time. And I bring in right now something from our first national hero here in Jamaica, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We must make use of every opportunity that we have, and where there is none, we must create it for ourselves. Even though I had no place to accommodate a tour for students, I told Ms. Thompson that I will prepare to accommodate her students as soon as she's ready. The rest is history. I developed a team which included clients with land space, other beekeepers to assist with information sharing, role playing, which my wife took charge of. You know what I mean? Thanks, Rajet. Complimentary sweets, honey bags we developed out of the experience. Multiple educational videos, equipment review, vegetable garden, and a live beehive demonstration. The honeybee tour was a massive success, and every year since its conception, a tour has happened, and the feedback is consistently positive. Imperative to say that Miller's April is not the first to host an event of this nature, as there have been honeybee tours that are used for tourism. A term now being called apitourism has been around for some time now, According to an online article by Joel Fraser, Guyana, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago all have tapped into the apitourism market. Coincidentally, in the same article, Richard Matthias, the president of ANOLA, Apiculture Collective in St. Lucia, asserts that the region's beekeepers tapping into tourism makes sense. He is quoted as saying, when you are in the Caribbean island, if you are not in tourism, you are not in business. I mean, strong words there from Richard. All right, so while Miller's April's focus right now is not an international market, the locally driven honeybee tour can position itself as a long-term plan towards being a bioeconomy for the Caribbean. Education is the greatest earner for any industry, and teaching one to fish adds more value than if you try to catch all the fish by yourself. Sustainability can also be seen as continuity. This is the main factor for stability and growth. Our economy is best continued through generations, and that's why teaching our younger generation is critical. We must teach them the importance of bees, how to help bees through planting trees, planting specific flowers in our gardens, farming without the use of pesticides. We must teach and show them in order to impact changes in their behavior. Think about it. How many Caribbean beekeepers are on YouTube sharing and teaching? Do we have our local television and radio stations providing knowledge on honeybees and their importance through weekly aired programs? All, I believe, give the Caribbean beekeepers solid and better understanding of their unique environment. Every apicultural division in the government of the Caribbean should have collaboration with the forestry department of that same government to capitalize on the resources of emerging forest development and beekeeping. The forestry department can help to identify a term being used loosely in this conference, the bee-friendly locations that are suited for beekeeping. The Guyana's Department of Tourism Director General Sinclair, Donald Sinclair is quoted as saying, "It is only natural to see how we can use agriculture as a base for providing satisfactory tourism experience. That experience can be advanced if the bees are in the best locations the island can provide." In conclusion, all right, so when I entered beekeeping, so I'm back where I started, it was possibly for many still a hush-hush industry. Established beekeepers were not so readily willing to share information and train other beekeepers to learn. And they had good reasons, as some mentioned, that there were individuals who wanted to learn how to manage bees so they could steal beehives and resell them. But that's, as I said earlier, another paper. Miller's April wants more information to be shared among beekeepers where they feel safe and productive, and hence develop a bee tour to teach various aspects of apiculture. Our bioeconomy will be impacted when more of our nation's people are equipped to manage the resources, processes, technologies, and principles for sustainable provision of goods and services across all sectors of the economy. This will be achieved through better decision making in what to plant, not to directly kill a bee, and through frequent information sharing. Apiculture, a bioeconomy for the Caribbean, is a powerful concept that must be managed carefully, or as our climate change, bad beekeeping practices, and lack of sharing will slow the benefits of the blessings due to the Caribbean. And I think I've listed some of my online references there. We've been talking a while. I know this is a talk and then question and answer thing. So I hope that I was clear right through. Thank you.
Beautiful presentation, Hugh, man. Beautiful presentation. Beautiful presentation, man. Thanks a lot. All the way from Jamaica. You touched on some great points, tree planting. You know, a lot of beekeepers, when I tell them, man, you know, you need to try and plant some trees in any program you're doing on a yearly basis. I say, man, you can't plant trees for bees, man. You'll never finish plant. And that's the whole purpose. That's why all of us need to put together and plant trees. The coconut tree you drink coconut from today wasn't planted last year or the week before or the year before. Some of your forefathers planted that tree for you. All right, so you have to pay it forward. Questions? Okay. Rishma Sankar, how can we get the successful beekeepers to share their knowledge for the younger generation? Want to take a crack at that one, Hugh? I may have some comments as well.
Let me see if I can look at the questions and answers. How can we get successful beekeepers to share knowledge for the younger generation? All right, so I guess the behavior change also have to impact those beekeepers. My experience, as I said, was that they are afraid of their industry being stolen. So once they can feel secure that the interest is genuine, mostly they would be more secure if it goes through an established entity that has youngsters who are interested. For example, when I do the bee tour, it is about the younger generation, so from the younger age. But I guess the question is more directed to people who are actually inside beekeeping already and just want the advice, encouragement, and so on. So if you go through the ministries and different industries, you will get links with the successful beekeepers who can feel a little more secure that you're going through an established entity as opposed to just off the street, just trying to teach somebody, just pick up somebody off the street and teach.
I would like to add to that. This is one of the reasons why, through the vision of Mr. Romulus, that we are creating in St. Lucia a center of excellence for apiculture. And part of that process will be there'll be places where persons can be trained within that facility. So beekeepers will not have to bring persons they don't know to their personal apiaries, but the center of excellence will be there to provide new beekeepers with insight into the apiculture sector and to train them in the best possible ways and, you know, have them properly equipped to go into the sector. So that's one of, so we hopefully when the center of excellence is opened and, you know, Mr. Romulus can give one of his world-renowned speeches at its opening. We will definitely be in the right format to help grow the industry, because once again, an industry cannot grow unless there's people coming in to replace those that leave the industry. All right, so a lot of the things that may have been, a lot of knowledge may have been lost because all the beekeepers have passed away and there's no forum for them to pass that knowledge on. So with the Center of Excellence, we will hopefully bridge that gap or close that gap, and young, old, anybody who wants to come and learn apiculture could come to the center, be trained at any level. So if you're a beginner, you can come and get the basics on how to begin and start. If you're an intermediate beekeeper to have some knowledge already, we can help have programs in place to build on that knowledge. And if you're an experienced beekeeper, there are certain areas that we can focus on, such as instrumental insemination. You want to do your pollen and your honey analysis. So there's different areas that Center of Excellence will take care of, and hopefully will meet the training needs of not just St. Lucia, but the OECS and the wider region
in general, and a lot of collaborations with North America and Europe hopefully will be on the cards. So I hope that answers your question, Rishma Sankar. We have another question.
I'm seeing it as well too. Beekeeping will decline if there is no passing down of this traditional knowledge, and that is important.
Yes.
If I may, if you don't mind, Richard.
No, go ahead, it's your show, man.
When I did my international training in Wolf Point, Montana, I was a part of the family was a fourth generation family. That means the great grandfather. So the person who I worked with, there were 3 other beekeepers before him. His father, his grandfather, and his great grandfather is where it started. And I'm telling you, the success of this family is evidence of the history and the tradition of the skill of beekeeping. You know, that is their livelihood, you know, but they were talking about over 5,000 colonies all across Montana. So when you talk about commercial beekeeping, you know, so passing it down is very important for sustainable development.
Okay, that's an interesting point online here from Dr. Jessamine. She says, in the absence of managed bee farms, there is a need to assess the capacity of natural habitats to support large-scale beekeeping. What happened with the St. George's University Eastern Caribbean Research Center? I cannot say. I have no knowledge. Maybe if Mr. Solomon is online, maybe he could give some insight to that. Gladstone's hand is up. Go ahead. Bring Mr. Solomon through, please. Give me some audio. Yeah. Gladstone, unmute your mic, please. You can speak.
All right. Hi. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, all. Am I coming through okay?
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear.
Right. Listen, this is one of the happiest moments in my life. You know, because what's happening now is that beekeepers are coming together and treat this as a response to the question that went earlier. Now, while we can build institutions and sectors at the formal level, you know, the center of excellence and so on, at the root level, we as beekeepers need to emulate our charters. We need to build relationships. One beekeeper with a next beekeeper.
Yes.
Right? 3 or 4, we have a colony. Yes. Then we get those colonies into apiaries. You know, we build from the ground up. And that's what this conference series is all about. It's really an opportunity for us to, as beekeepers, to fellowship and rapport as we're doing now, and to ask these pointed questions, and more so to act on them thereafter. Because at the end of this conference, everybody should have a new beekeeping contact, a new beekeeping friend in their own island and elsewhere. And let's start to develop from that at the roots level. Let's learn from the bees. Let's get together and, you know, really produce nectar, human nectar, the sweetest thing you can find.
Yes, man, definitely. Human nectar. I like that. Human nectar. That's a great point. Dr. Hayden Sinanan, there should be a policy of succession planning in all countries, yes. But then we have some Caribbean leaders that are there for almost 30, 40 years. So succession planning doesn't seem to work in the Caribbean. But great point. There needs to be succession planning. I think maybe more than that needs to be put in place. I think once the beekeepers as a whole take hold of our own industry and take charge of our own destiny, this will be the beginning of a new era. I think we have been dependent on institutions, dependent on foreign intervention, as opposed to we have all the answers to our own questions. All we need to do is to share the information amongst ourselves and to try and build trust. I think one of the key things that has been missing, and it's missing in all the islands. I speak to people in many of these countries, countries that in the Caribbean. There is a trust issue. You know, if we don't trust one another as beekeepers, if we don't trust sharing our knowledge and sharing our locations and sharing experiences with one another, we can't move forward. We can't learn. But trust is a two-sided thing. We cannot be foolish about it. We need to be able to build mutual trust. I think that's one of the things that's been missing from the apiculture sector right across the Caribbean, because I've been to a few islands and everybody's very guarded and secretive, and you know, well, yeah, Richard is from St. Lucia, so he's not going to tell anybody where my locations are, so I can bring Richard along. But we need to go beyond that. Mutual respect, mutual trust for one another. We need to start to emulate the bees that we cherish and care for. I think this is why equifinality. There we go. You know, these are the things that we need to do. So we need to try to build these bonds of trust between us so that we can move forward. Until we do that, we're all going to be spinning top in mud, talking about the same problems every year. And I think this year, one of the things, you know, it was a pity that we all couldn't come down to St. Lucia. I think I wanted to pull you up on that. You know, I'm going to live to regret those words that I said, that if you're not in the tourism business, you're not in business. I mean, that was the case up until about 9 or 10 months ago, Hugh. But now with COVID, it changed everything. So, but I know that our economies will bounce back. The tourism sector will bounce back. It's already started the rebuilding process. And once the vaccines go out, you know, everybody should be back in the saddle, back in the airplanes and traveling. But you know, it's been a good point. Very good point. Very, very, very good points that we need to make. Rashmi Sankar again, beekeeping will decline if there's no passing down of traditional knowledge. Yes, we agree with that 100%. Mr. Sananan, thank you for that true words being spoken. Yeah, well, we all speak true words, man, but it's putting it into action. And that's what we need to do now. It's action time. It's definitely time for action. Let's look at the journal thread. Good morning from Jamaica. How do I make contact with persons here? So somebody wants to make contact with you, Hugh. Maybe you should give them your number, or so put your email address out or respond to them. Tanisha Wallace, she's in Jamaica. She wants to reach out to somebody that could help her. Peter Metro said, well said. So I think we are on the right track. No. Where are we? All right.
Yeah, yep. I mean, if I may again, Richard.
Yeah.
So there's a cultural aspect that we can't neglect that will be involved in our beekeeping practices.
Yes.
You mentioned the issue of trust. You know, I know that for Jamaica, that is a big issue. Even in our music, which is arguably one of the strongest part of our influences, it speaks a lot about trust and not trusting and not you should not trust and so on.
Yes.
However, we have to start with the primary aspect of socialization. Where is the family? Who in your family you can start with to share this knowledge then? You know what I mean? And then there may be some other argument about trusting family again too, but we have to start somewhere. And I think there is where the best place we can start, the family. You know, your brother, your uncle, your sister, your daughter, your son. Who in your family you can draw into an April one day and show them two things and so on. We have to start somewhere. So that is what is one of the behavior change too. We'll have to change the removing of the distrust among us as a people.
All right, great stuff. Hugh, I'm sorry. We are now 11:49, and my technical team are going to start throwing bottles and bricks at me shortly because I've run over time, and our next presentation is supposed to start at 11:45. So,
okay.
All right, but I really enjoyed this. It was one, as I said, I've presented this as one of the most thought-provoking and inspiring presentations because it looked at how the young, beekeeping can help change the community, not just on a financial level, because everybody seems to always focus on the money when it's not about the money. The first thing that we need to work on in apiculture is the bees and practice our husbandry skills. Good husbandry brings good honey production. All right. So let me just quickly, Equifinality, Shada, Natasha Williams, okay. I think you will get your email address. Shada, strong relationships are developed through shared goals, trust, and mutual benefits. This needs to be encouraged amongst beekeepers. Well, true words have never been said, so I think that's the bottom line. We need to try to build trust amongst ourselves. If we don't trust one another, we cannot grow. But on that note, I am going to conclude this session. We're gonna be back in about, as you log out, you can log back into the next session straight away. My technical guys, thumbs up, yes, they're nodding their heads in eager anticipation. All right, so I'm gonna sign out now. And you can just quickly click on the next link and we can continue the session. Those of you on Facebook and YouTube, you don't have to go anywhere. You could just stay and we will transition into the next segment. All right, but Hugh, thanks a lot, man.
Yes.
You know, you're the first guy you were out of all the presenters who presented technical papers, you were the first person to send in your paper. So I got to really thank you, and you gave me the strength to continue to knock on more doors to get more papers and more people on board.
Okay.
So big respect, my brother. And
all right.
Next time I'm in Jamaica, I definitely have to come give you a look up.
Okay.
Big respect.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care, man. Bye.
Much.
Peace out.
Blessings.
Nice guidance. All right. Next session. We are running the Brasso Seco.
My name is Javed.
All right, so Javed, we're gonna cue the presentation now, and at the end, I think you're gonna do some questions and answer. One thing I would suggest, Javed, is that you mute your mic until the end of the session so we don't get any feedback. All right, so roll it. Thanks a lot. Roll it, Tech.
Good day, everyone. My name is Javed Omadin.
And I am Janessa de Ramos.
And we're both from the Brasso Seco Monlacqua Farmers Association. We feel very privileged to be able to present today at the 10th ACBO Beekeeping Congress on the topic of beekeeping as a mechanism for realizing sustainable community livelihoods.
The Brasso Seco Monlacqua Farmers Association has an ongoing beekeeping project for the past 3 years, and during this time has produced honey which it sells under the brand name Honey Seco. Members of this group manage a total of 330 hives, 40 of which belong to the organization. The group harvests a total of 1,650 gallons of honey annually.
Brasso Seco is located in a pristine forested area which produces honey of exquisite quality and has developed excellent farming models. For example, that of the Brasso Seco Chocolate Company and Honey Seco, our label. The area has a high youth delinquency rate and low levels of employment opportunities. It also suffers from high levels of deforestation as a result of unsustainable farming practices, especially Christophine farming, as well as the heavy use of agrochemicals associated with monocropping. Historically, the area has been affected by an increase in crime rate. Also, because of the excellent honey production, there's an influx of beekeepers from outside the area who wish to set up apiaries, thereby pushing the limits of the carrying capacity of the area.
The current aims of this organization are to create means for environmentally sustainable livelihoods through beekeeping. Our main objective include to train members in the production of a variety of high value-added products, to train members in conducting
I recognize that some people are seeing some video issues, and we've got it resolved now. Okay, thanks.
To train farmers in integrated agricultural practices, which, when incentivized by beekeeping, will reduce pesticide use. To increase the strength of hives through capacity building in hive management and sensor use.
These goals will be achieved through a few different activities, holding mead making, wax processing, and nucleus production trainings with 25 community members, producing an apicultural tour guide training manual which will be used to train persons in the effective delivery of apicultural tours, conducting trainings in proper hive management for 15 beekeepers, developing a fully equipped and fully functional queen rearing lab which will be used to breed new strains of highly productive queens. In addition, the training of 15 beekeepers in queen rearing techniques, training of 15 farmers in integrated agricultural practices, the planting of 1,000 native forest trees in and around the communities of Brasso Seco and Monlacqua.
So far, for this project, we have achieved the following. Completed a mead production workshop, and farmers have set batches of mead for Christmas. Conducted a survey of beekeepers to gather their knowledge and understanding, as well as begun preparing content on apicultural tourism for dissemination. Conducted online training activities with our trainer, IAC St. Lucia, in hive management, and are currently preparing hives for the upcoming season. Conducted online training with IAC in queen rearing, and conducted an integrated agricultural workshop, and planted 300 of the 1,000 trees specified in our project.
The survey conducted in the area provided baseline information on the beekeepers, as well as information on understanding of the relationship between beekeeping and environmental and social sustainability. The survey found that most of the beekeepers are male, with only 3 females out of 16. Most of the farmers own more than 20 hives, and most learn the trade from apprenticeships.
It was found that 87.5% of beekeepers not only cut less trees as a result of beekeeping, but also regularly plant trees to increase forage. In addition, 81.3% of individuals said that they use less pesticides as a result of beekeeping. It is clear that these results indicate that beekeepers are more likely to practice environmentally sustainable farming practices. Given the strong relation between farming and beekeeping, we can infer that the more farmers that can be encouraged into beekeeping, while being educated and encouraged in environmentally sustainable farming practices, the more environmental sustainability can be realized in the community.
Our survey highlighted that over 80% of farmers have started already using less chemicals, especially pesticides, because of beekeeping. This is a plus not only in terms of less toxic chemicals to our environment, but for the conservation of pollinators in our area.
87.5% of our surveyed beekeepers thought that beekeeping helped the community, whilst 62.5% said that they hired persons from the community to do work for them. This shows that beekeeping helps to provide employment and create livelihoods, not just for beekeepers but for other members of the community. When asked how beekeeping has helped the community, participants noted that it improves income generation for farmers, increases employment, helped to build community spirit, and provided opportunities for youth.
It was also found that while all participants considered beekeeping to provide valuable income to them and their families, the majority had an alternative livelihood. The survey indicated there's a strong link between the occupation of farming and beekeeping, as 71.4% noted that farming was an alternative source of income.
All participants said that they thought honey and other hive products can help to provide a sustainable livelihood in their community. In addition, most members produced other hive products, some of which are mead, soaps, wax, propolis, pollen, honey chocolates, and jam. This shows that because beekeepers already produce some value-added products, there is potential for a diverse bee product industry.
Overall, the survey found that even though our project is still ongoing, many benefits to the community have already begun to be recognized, socially, economically, and environmentally. Social benefits included building community spirit, opportunities for youth to direct them away from nefarious activities, as well as improved livelihoods for community members. The economic benefits included increased employment, increased business opportunities, and the realization of entrepreneurship opportunities, for example, through the development and sale of high value-added products, such as mead. The environmental benefits included pollination, which resulted in healthy harvests of crops for farmers. Also, there was a reduction in pesticide use, as well as the increased tree planting activities, especially in terms of rehabilitation of hillsides impacted by landslides during heavy rainfall events in the past. There's one other advantage not mentioned by farmers here. This project has also helped us in terms of developing our skills in project management, stakeholder relations, as well as the ability to communicate our work, as is being done right now.
We are very grateful for the opportunity provided today to present our work, and thank you for listening. We are now open for any questions.
Great presentation from the team in Brasso Seco all the way in the northern heights of Trinidad and Tobago, man. It's a great presentation. Javed, great job. Dr. Mahabir, great job. Where are we? Okay, so we have one question so far from Rishma Sankar. Were there any medicinal trees cultivated?
Yes, definitely. There were, we are cultivating medicinal trees where we're learning about the different values of the native plants in the area, but incense, crapo, yeah, many of the trees, kapok, silk cotton tree. Sorry, yes. Yeah, yes. Like I was saying, yeah, there are many of the native trees that exist in our forest that are highly medicinal, and we are currently cultivating them for that purpose, as well as the honey that they produce. Well, although maybe we don't have the evidence right now to back it up, but if research is done to help back up the very medicinal qualities in many of the native trees in the area.
Quick question for Mr. Romulus. Do you hold a second?
Thank you, Richard. Excellent presentation from the group in Trinidad. And I know my colleague Shada has been working with you all quite over an extended period of time. I wanted to ask you all, what is your vision, considering the benefits you have gained from apiculture and the livelihoods component, and presumably it has brought your group closer together. What is your long-term vision for apiculture in your community? How do you see it transforming your community and your group over time?
Maybe split up into two. One of them is the beekeepers themselves and the farmers who can be incentivized into beekeeping. Definitely, they're going to be more incentivized to preserve the environment. And our philosophy really is about spreading around the wealth that the village holds, or the natural resources hold, in terms of the foraging grounds and the ability for people to keep bees. So having more members, more farmers being incentivized into it, and maybe overall each one has less, but the community has more. But of course, not everyone will be a farmer or a beekeeper, and for those people, it's really important to develop, which we are developing right now, value-added product industries, such as the wax production, the meat production, the propolis, pollen, and the beekeepers will then give their or sell it at a low reduced cost to these other members of the community, or as part of the business that we are going to get into, where these other members will be able to get employment, and also through apicultural tourism as well. Because of course everybody has a skill, everybody has an inclination towards occupation, and everyone is different, and yeah, we are trying to incorporate everyone in this longer term vision and project.
All right, great point, Javid. No other questions pending. I just want to compliment on the presentation and the use of statistical information and the value of statistical information. A lot of us beekeepers, we kind of like, oh, well, I think it's this or I think it's that. Get the data in, collect the numbers, produce a statistical analysis, and then you can speak on a position of power and factuality, not on perhaps maybe I think. So I really commend Javed and the team at Brasso Seco. You know, even though it's, you know, these guys are like my brothers and sisters, man, in Brasso Circle, all right? Because we're working with them, and hopefully I'll be in Trinidad with these guys in, I think probably, I don't foresee Trinidad borders opening and the situation in St. Lucia restoring itself until maybe April of 2021. So I think I'm setting my calendar to be in Trinidad by earliest April 2021. But I think we have a lot of work to finish, to complete in Trinidad, you know, but I think just from the presentation, it gets me revved up and eager to get there to work with you guys. So definitely, man, it's a great presentation. Any more questions from the team? I see some latecomers coming in. Welcome, Miss Dr. Prosper. Nice to see you. I have one question. Okay, look at this. Jason Latren, look at all this stuff that's going on here. We need some market to help inspire farmers. Congrats to you and your team. So, Javid, you know, when you go back, when you give the word to the Brasso Circle community that, you know, your rest of your colleagues, your comrades in Trinidad and Tobago, they're proud of the work that you're doing. So, I mean, don't give up, man. Who else is out there? Who else is out there? Who else is out there that wants to say something? Let me put some. Mr. Sinanan, are you around? Any words of encouragement for these young guys in Brasso Circle? No? Yes? Come on, Mr. Sinanan. Camera team, technical team, can you get him online? Can we reach out and touch him? Sorry? He's in the attendees room. Hayden Sinanan, HS. Although I see he's logged on twice. He's not showing he's there in mine? Okay. All right. There he is. He's already there. Oh, no, or is that you guys? Yes, no, up. Is there?
Okay.
Engage, Mr. Sinan. Engage.
All right, Javed and company, good presentation. I like that you all are actually doing something with the Brasso Circle farmers. I know there are a lot of opportunities there, and we could, of course, work together. It's something that I was asked for. The directions and future projects is all really, really very important. And beyond this, we could extend to the rest of the beekeeping fraternity here in Trinidad and even in Tobago. Because quite a lot of things going to come out of the work that you're doing, the work that the UWI group is doing to Mr. Sanka and Mr. Saraswati and so on. It will all provide to the upliftment of the beekeeping fraternity in Trinidad and Tobago. And this is something that I've always advocated for. As you know, I would have been doing training. You would have been one of my students in my training courses. And it's something that we should continue doing. And maybe then we could extend our technologies to the wider Caribbean, especially taking the Africanized bee management concept and putting it together with the European bee management concept. Because in listening to Jose Luis, I think it was this morning.
Yes, 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 Jose Luis.
Right. There are some issues, I think, that we would have passed through over the years in Trinidad here in terms of management of the Africanized bee that can be adapted to his type of. And that is something that we should work towards. So again, Richard and you're doing a really good thing with this conference now. And I'm seeing where, you know, virtual is the way to go. I'm here in, I want to say sunny Trinidad, but we look to be having some rains now. Difficult to go and feed bees, but we will have to do it. So hopefully these things can happen virtually and we'll have greater inputs And as you said earlier, I hope that we do have linkages in the other Caribbean territories and the Latin American territories, whereby we could piggyback on all the different developments.
Exactly.
Right? So that would be my input. Have a good one, guys, and looking forward to hearing some.
All right, great stuff. Robert Matsui says, thank you, Javid, for your presentation. My question is that what support structures do you have at a community level that guarantees sustainable livelihoods through beekeeping? You got that?
Right, well, we are currently building the support structures, and that is it's extremely important to have support structures and structures in place, because, well, we all know we're human beings and things can go astray if we are not, we don't develop things structurally. So yes, definitely we are in the process of right now creating this business and this business model, which is centered around the value-added product industry and the participation and the involvement of all members, who non-beekeeping members as well. So we're definitely working on that currently right now.
Good stuff. Let's see what else is out there. Chert Irvin, I think that's Tobago Extension Officer. He says, excellent presentation. Bo Sturk, are top hive bars being implemented? Do you use top bar? I don't think so. Do you use any top bar hives in Brasso Seco?
No, but I would like to do some this year after.
Okay.
Yeah. Very much. I would be very much interested to try some, and for the community to be started on that, because I have been, of course, looking at what the work that is done in other countries, and it's really cheap to create. So I realize the necessity, because there are many people who can't even afford to, let's say, buy the cheapest quality material to make the boxes. So we need to kickstart this top bar hive project.
Great. I'm going to share your email address, Javid, with a couple of people. Risha Shankar, she wants to get in contact with you. So I'm going to, with your permission, I will share your email
Everyone,
address.
yes.
Okay, closing remarks from your patron, Dr. Mahaber. Jeff SGP hopes to support the expansion of the Brasso Seco model across the country and hopes to be able to work closely with the Ministry of Agriculture and especially the Inspector of Apiaries to achieve this. So that's a comment there from the National Coordinator of Jeff SGP Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Shada Mahaber. She wants, just and I'll repeat for you, Jeff SGP hopes to support the expansion of the Brasso Seco model across the country and hopes to be able to work closely with the Ministry of Agriculture and especially Inspector of Apiaries to achieve this. So there is light, a big light at the end of the tunnel, man. All right, so Dr. Mahaber is willing to help, Jeff SGP is willing to help fund projects and to make things happen in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, I don't see anything else.
I just would like to say to Mr. Surinam, thank you very much. I appreciate your support so much, and I really look forward to us working together more closely. I think collaboration is extremely important, and our group needs to work closely with you as well in your position in the future. So thank you, and thank you everyone else.
Great stuff. All right, so, wow, we are back on track, guys. It's getting good, man. I'm getting good at this. We're back on track. It's now 12:19, and we're going to lunch at 12:30. What I would like to, where's our magazine? I could just share this with you guys. All right, so this is the magazine that, oh, well, which camera? There's so many of you here. Okay, raise my hand. Okay, so this is the organic, home organics book we were talking about yesterday. Mr. Romulus was talking about fertilizers and pesticides, an introduction guide to organic fertilizers and pesticides, a safer and healthier alternative for all. This is the booklet. This might be Dr. Lina Demple's version, if I can not give it back afterwards. But this is the book this has been produced by the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative. It's very informative, nice glossy pages, lots of nice pictures, great pictorials. So it'll be a great educational tool. It's got some nice stuff there with the eggshells, how to reprocess the eggshells and to get it back into the soil. So this is the book we were talking about. I'm also going to take this opportunity. One of the early projects Mr. Romulus had funded in the apiculture sector, I remember it was I'm trying to remember the lady's name. Act Now Generation. It was the Act Now Generation team, and they had made some nice children's videos about apiculture. I don't know if we've got any of them queued up, guys. We could play a couple as we have some time to spare. Yes, no, possibly. Okay, you'll get back to us on that. Our studio audience. That's such an interesting word. Our studio audience. Any comments, guys? Any comments? Dr. Prosper, any follow-up from yesterday on your analogies and observations, and nothing further to say? You were very animated yesterday. All right, Vaughan Mims, please put information in chat also how and where to get it. Oh, the book, yes. As Mr. Romulus said yesterday, they're going to be putting it on Amazon soon, so look out for it. I'll probably put a link or some information on the website. Those of you that did log into Zoom, we may have received a copy of our newsletter. Association of Caribbean Beekeepers newsletter. The first edition went out in line with the opening of the 10th CBC, and it'll be a monthly edition. So what we can probably do is that we can maybe do an article on the organics and put it in our monthly newsletter, and from there it'll probably give you information as to where you can purchase it online, or if you can. Yep, Mr. Romulus is going to say a few words.
Richard, we are trying to get the president of the Bellevue Cooperative from Schwarzell to join us tomorrow about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
I think he's a very passionate speaker, as you know. If he can join us, I think he will give the historical perspective on the publication and why they went about producing it, the experimentation that went into it, experimentation with students and in backyard gardening and so on. So I think if we can get him to, this evening, I'll try my best to get him, and you'll have a really good presentation. He always lives up to our expectation. Mr. Herman is his name. Thank you.
Definitely, yes. Good old Mr. Herman. All right, great idea. Okay, there's nothing. Have I missed anything in there? Have I missed anything online? Welcome, Brother Jeg. All right, man. Any more comments? Javid, I think that's it, mate. It's a wrap. Great presentation. Not too many hard questions. I think you did a great job. Presentation was nice and tight. Lots of statistical information. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to break Oh, hold on. I've saw something's coming through. Dr. Amy J. Dreves. I'm thoroughly enjoying the presentations. Would appreciate if you could put the book in my name, authorship, etc., so I can find and purchase it online. Thank you. Matt Brown, great presentation. Build trust, mutual benefit. Dr. Amy again. Build trust, mutual benefits, and shared goals. Very true. That's the essence of a beehive. That's the essence of a beehive. All right, well, on that note, oh, I see one more question pop up. Can the magazine be purchased locally? Anonymous attendee. Yes, it can.
Yeah, it's now available, I think, at $40 EC a copy. From the Bellevue Cooperative, from our office, and from the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association as well.
SLHD office. Okay, so you've got that SLHD office in Rodney Bay, the Jeff office, St. Lucia in San Souci, and the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative office in Swazel. All right, so those 3 locations locally for now. Anonymous attendee. All right. And on that note, I think we're going to break for lunch. You got the videos, guys? Well, okay, we're going to run a couple of the videos from Act Now group. This is one of Mr. Romulus' first ventures into the beekeeping sphere. Enjoy.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you this. Boy B, this country's last known surviving honeybee, was critically injured today and is fighting for his survival.
Details remain sketchy as to which of the many factors is responsible for the decline of the bee population and has contributed to this latest incident. This decline is a worldwide phenomenon. Natural disasters such as hurricanes can destroy the natural habitat of the bees and also affect their sources of food. Also, diseases such as the deadly viral mites have all played their part. However, the most deadly factors include the indiscriminate use of chemicals such as pesticides and insecticides, which have proven to be the primary cause of the decline in the population of bees.
Beekeepers and scientists continue to investigate the occurrence of colony collapse disorder. In this disorder, honeybees suddenly disappear from their hives and do not return. The result is a collapse of the bee colony of that hive.
The decline or disappearance of the honeybees and the consequent decrease in pollination has already resulted in less food production and thus an increase in food prices and higher food importation. As a result, our diet too has changed. No more fresh fruits and vegetables. The impact on our health and well-being has been dire. Baila via mushamela. Give life to the honeybee.
Baila vie pour ces mouchamela. Give life to the honeybee.
We trust and pray that Boy Bee will be revived. Baila via mouche à miel. Give life to the honeybee. A nous venir ensemble pour protéger mouche à miel. Ça c'est affaire nous toutes, c'est mamaila.
This message brought to you by Acme Generation with fluid assistance from Jeff, SGP, UIBP.
Hello, everyone. Listen to this. I'm feeling a lot better, thank you. Do you know a healthy honeybee population is maintained by using natural honeycombs? barring up beehives, and eliminating the use of pesticides, especially in and around apiaries. Please, don't kill our drones. Don't you know that they are needed for reproduction? To help us, you can grow bee-friendly plants. Stop destroying our habitats and create a honeybee water garden. Do you know that all of this will help us to thrive? These actions will ensure that the health of humankind will continue through the consumption of fruits, vegetables, and other flora. Can you imagine a world without fruits? Oh, I can't. I know. Let's make an agreement now. As bees, we promise to pollinate. And as humans, you can promise not to destroy us. Let us all agree to work together to protect the environment and to ensure that our future is not compromised. Anou vini ensemble pour protéger mon cher miel. Ça c'est affaire nous toutes ces mamailles-là.
This message brought to you by Acno Generation with further assistance from Jeff, SGP, UNDP.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this breaking story. We are here outside the United Nations headquarters where Boy B, the newly appointed honeybee ambassador to the United Nations, is preparing to address the world. Oh wait, I think they are ready. He's approaching the podium right now. This is a momentous event in
Fellow
history.
delegates, the honeybee has been with humankind from time immemorial, but we forget at our peril the value of the honeybee to humankind's survival. Bees are to be found in the Holy Scriptures, in the sonnets of great poets. They beautify the earth, and humankind is the great beneficiary. My small island state of St. Lucia, like the nations of the rest of the world, is now engaged in a great effort to stop the decline of the honeybee population. This is a task that no individual nation can achieve alone. The value of the honeybee to humankind's progress demands a collective and concerted action. Governments around the world must take swift and decisive action if we are to halt this decline. We therefore put forward the proposition that the United Nations declare an International Year of the Honeybee, galvanizing all nations of the world in ensuring that the honeybee does not become extinct. À nous venir ensemble pour protéger mon cher miel. Ça c'est affaire nous toutes ces mamailles-là.
Generation with further assistance from Jeff, SGP, UNDP.
Those who follow us on Facebook, the same. Those of you on Zoom, we're going to break now and we'll be back at 1:30. All right, so take care, folks, and thank you very much for your time. Sure, and if you want copies of the videos that we just showed from the ACNOW group, you can download them online off the Jeff SGP St. Lucia website. Okay, thank you very much for everybody.
as you can see, we have some brood, some capped brood, and we have some open brood there, or wet brood.
Okay, my name is Richard Matthias. I'm the president of the Ianola Apiculture Collective. This particular location at the Casa del Vega in Vigi, where we have our interpretation center located. It was originally conceptualized as a project for tourism, so we could incorporate work with the cruise ship passengers to, when they come briefly to St. Lucia for an hour or so, that they could come experience the bees, experience some different flavors of honey, different types of food cooked with honey, and get a little bit of the history of apiculture in the Caribbean and especially St. Lucia. And then we also have some hives here which they can do a hive inspection and see the queen and the drones and the worker bees and taste a little honey directly from the hive. So because of COVID, we had to adapt a little bit, and we started to pursue doing local training and holding seminars for local beekeepers and persons that are interested in getting into beekeeping. The bees we have in here are very nice, gentle bees. We've specifically bred them for this location. We've looked at the characteristics of all of our different hives. This still works, it's in bad condition. These are a number of general citizens of St. Lucia that have interested in getting to learn a little bit more about beekeeping before they start making financial investment into beekeeping. We found that a lot of people they hear about beekeeping, they hear about the potential revenue that can be derived from producing honey, but there's not much background given into it's not just the bees in the box and the bees do their thing. You have to manage it as it's livestock. So there's a lot of do's and don'ts, a lot of things you need to learn. So we developed this 6-week course to allow people who have an interest in the subject to give them some exposure, take them out on a few field trips, come to a few of our apiaries.
That's a crown bud, so we pop the crown bud off, smoke.
And really give them the technical insight to the technical support they really need to know before they make the plunge. So before you take out a couple $100 or $1,000 or more and you invest in bees, and then you give up after 6 months, that's money down the drain. Where if you get a gradual introduction and you can gauge if this is what you really want to do.
This is a cell builder, and a cell builder is saturated with nurse bees. And nurse bees, because nurse bees produce secretion called royal jelly.
My name is Mujahid, and I represent an organization called ASLAM, which stands for Association of St. Lucian Muslims. We respect nature as Muslims, and we want to find a way to live in harmony with nature, so it was just natural for us to gravitate towards bees.
My name is Denzel Louis, and I'm from Marvin Possa. Well, I've learned a lot of new things about the different species and where to set up the hives and how to set them up in the proper spots.
In this area here, we have some 12-hour larvae. So this is going to be our grafting frame.
Apiculture is, it's all about the numbers. Beekeeping is about the numbers. The more colonies of hives you have, is the more honey potentially you can produce. So you obviously, if you're a honey producer, you want to have as many hives as possible. So the equipment will cost a little bit.
So we just look for the queen again quickly. She will be walking, so we'll be looking across the frame just to try to spot her.
Where you can grow easily with bees is that once you've got your first 5 or 6 colonies of bees, you can multiply those colonies into more bees as time goes by. With good management techniques, you can do that. So once you buy your first 5 colonies, technically you don't need to buy any more colonies after that.
Okay, my name is Jacques Mathur. A new upcoming beekeeper. Me being a chef, I like to know where my products come from. I like to know where the honey comes from, how it's produced, what goes on in producing honey. So that's what I'm here to learn.
I find it's really opened up my mind. I was only looking at bees as something, or pest or something to sting me. But now I actually see like opportunity with it. So I don't know if I'll go into it right away, but it was an eye-opener for me, and it's probably another direction you could take.
It's going to be a cost. You have to buy boxes, you have to buy frames, you have to get the different things to manage your bees, to keep your bees healthy. All right, so there are a number of different things along the way that you would need that will clock up the money.
Why did you think you will get into honey production?
I think it's because it's a good secondary income for myself, and there's also good practices you can learn from it as well.
So now that you're getting this deeper appreciation of what's involved, is it something that you think you'd like to do for a while?
Oh yes, I think this is something that I can easily fit into anything that I'm doing. It's something that's quick, easy, and when you're in the right community, people will always come and help you no matter what you do.
Only going into bee farming for honey will not make you a millionaire. You actually have to, yes, that's the most important thing. You actually have to look at the other aspects of having bees to actually benefit from it.
That and a lot of other stuff I've learned here. We also the practical aspect of it. Today we'll be doing like grafting. We'll be grafting queens, like basically making more queens. Yeah, it's really good. It's a good thing, and I would encourage anybody to look into apiculture. Yeah, it's profitable, but you shouldn't do it for the money. You should do it because of the passion and the benefits it has for the environment.
Well, as you can see from our project here, we got a lot of assistance from GFSGP. We've got a lot of help through them over the years, and they helped a lot of apiculture projects in St. Lucia. You know, there's a lot of awareness, and as long as people are aware of the importance of bees into the biodiversity of the country, it's all good. So I mean, the more people are aware of bees and they think about bees, and the less they use harmful chemicals like gramaxone and touchdown, which have been proven to have diverse effects on the bees globally, we're all in good stead. So it's important that if you want to look at your natural ecosystems, your rainforests, your mangroves, your natural forests, it's very important that bees are there to help pollinate these trees, these plants, to help keep them going, because bees they agitate them, they force the plants to grow, they force them to flower.
Immediately after this, we're heading somewhere else, Chabot. What exactly is going to be happening there?
In Chabot, we have one of our breeding facilities in Chabot, and we're going to be doing probably making some queens in Chabot. Also, some of the guys, part of the training is to welcome, produce, and wax foundation stuff. So we're going to look at a few different aspects of the apiculture business, and to see, shed some different light. In this capilla here, we full of drone semen, and we will have a queen position right here. We collect drones, we put them in this bag, and then we squeeze them and we harvest and sperm.
We pull them up, and as you can see, we have some queen cells developing.
Our motto is more than just honey, so we're not just interested in honey production. As I stated before, we are breeders. We focus a lot on breeding really good quality top queens.
So hello guys, my name is John Frederick. I am the Vice President of the Iron Apiculture Collective, and part of my role is to graft beautiful queens for the Iron Apiculture Collective and St. beekeepers. Okay, so I think we found the frame with the correct age. In this area here, we have some 12-hour larva. So this is going to be our grafting frame. So grafting is the process by which you pick up a 12-hour larva and you place it onto a small puddle of royal jelly. To graft, these are the tools that you'll be needing. You'll be needing royal jelly. To prime your cells, you will be needing the cell cups and the cell cup holders. You'll be needing a grafting tool. This is a Chinese grafting tool. My preferable one is a brush, pin brush. It's important that you prime your cells. You could prime it with royal jelly. Some people prime it with water. Just a little dab, just to keep the larva moist.
Come in. Don't miss number.
So after this process, so we then take the bar and then we place it into the cell builder. So those cells, they would have to be packed with royal jelly, because that's the food that the queens would live on with survival. So we place it down into the cell builder. So the bees will start polishing up the cells and then they'll start caring for the larvae that we placed in the cells. So we put our feeder on. After 24 hours we go in, we take out the bar and we put it into the cell finisher. The cell finisher is another hive.
Another hive?
Yes, with a queen in it. So it's a queen rat colony. The cell builder is a queenless colony. So we just look for the queen again quickly. Just to be very careful with her, not to squash her.
What do you determine where the queen is?
Well, she would be walking, so we'll be looking across the frame just to try to spot her. If she's not there, then we just continue and brush her.
She's marked as well.
And she has a dot on her back, a blue dot. So, and then after the sensitive stage, then we take the cells from the cell finisher and we put it into the incubator. That's that yellow box.
That's from our graph we did a few days ago. Why do we put them in these cages? When in an incubator.
They don't escape when they're hatched.
Okay, and what will they do when they escape?
They'll kill each other.
That's it. So we put them in these rollers to stop them from killing the other queens. And if you notice, the cells are got nice indentation on them, so they really went to work on those queens and they cared for them. Another queen has hatched. Come on, girlie. She's not as big as the first one. So you guys have got a special treat today. You're seeing actually freshly hatched virgin queens. Right. I mean, we were there like 30 minutes ago. We don't keep them here more than 2 or 3 days. So this project we have from Jeff. One of the outputs from the project is that we're looking at higher value products. For the last 3 years, we've been working and producing pain relief cream, which uses bee venom in it. And we've also been working, one of the things that this project has sponsored, Jeff SGP has helped us with, is that we're going to be producing commercial medical grade bee venom for export into Europe and the United States. So if some of you may have noticed in the last few days, there have been research in Australia where people have found aggressive forms of cancer can be treated with bee venom. This is stuff we knew for many years, and this is why we pursued the field. Those of you who've been looking at COVID, there's been some talk about COVID could be cured by using bee venom and propolis. But there are other areas where you can use bee venom for. I mean, there's AIDS research that they've used bee venom in. They've used it in the treatment of Lyme disease. It's one of the main only cures, really, or to help the people to have a manageable lifestyle. And one of the things that we've also been looking at closely is because of climate change, the yields of honey have fluctuated, especially in the Caribbean, maybe not so much in North America and Latin America, where they've got massive agricultural sector that really works hand in glove with their apiculture sector. But we in the Caribbean, we're dependent more on natural forage. So we've seen a lot of changes, a lot of fluctuations based upon the climate change and the changing environment, which has forced us to say, well, we can't bank on honey as we used to before, so we need to look at something else to help us keep our heads above water.